Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 280. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Johnny V.
I'm waiting for some smart-ass remark. I'm just ready something to play off of.
I was immediately thinking, as I saw by a post of yours earlier today, I believe we have and we're not a political show here, but I believe a president and vice president of the United States are here in town in Milwaukee, not far from us.
Yep. There's a very large Trump rally here in downtown, and this afternoon, I went to pick up my son and his friend for swim practice, and I stopped at Culver's, which is like right on the way. Always the best thing to eat right before swim practice is a nice solid burger and some, some chicken nuggets.
Did you get him some custard as well?
No, I actually shot them down because they both asked for it. And I said, dudes, you're about to get in and swim for an hour. You don't need to be weighed down by all this food. But I did notice when I pulled into Culver's, there was a cop and a helicopter. And I just thought, oh, there must have been an accident nearby. Well, just as we're walking out of Culver's, a black car pulls up and a guy, Secret Service, got out of the car. And all I thought was, oh crap, the president's here.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy stops me in the doorway and he says, hold on. Can you go out the other way? And I was like, no, my car is right there. Like, what am I gonna do? Go out and walk around? I'm still gonna be right here.
Dude, I just ate at a Culver's. You think I'm gonna walk around the building now?
I actually didn't eat.
Okay.
Okay. And so he looks at the car and he's like, and he sees me with my boy in the thing, and he's like, okay, cool. Just hurry up and run. So I'm like, all right, boys, run to the car. We run to the car, get in. Just then, the entire motorcade comes around the corner, blocking us in. I still don't know who it is. And there's a Secret Serviceman about 15 feet from my car, and I roll down the window. I go, so, president? Knowing that Trump is a fan of fast food in general. He's made that. It's nothing political, just a fan of it. And he goes, no, didn't you weren't able to see? And I was like, no, not yet. And just then, out of one of the protected vehicles, steps out Mike Pence, the vice president. And I couldn't see if his wife got out of the other side of the vehicle. It was kind of obscure to me, but I did see somebody else get out, and Secret Service went with him. So I would make the assumption it was his wife. And because we are the first car directly behind the motorcade, I pull out my phone and I ask the Secret Service guy, can I take a picture?
Oh, you were about to get shot, weren't you?
I didn't want to get shot. I didn't want to pull something out from the bottom of my car and oh. and so he goes, yes, go ahead. That's cool. Pull up my phone and he looks directly at me and my son who's right next to me and just kind of gives us a polite wave and stands there. I take, a fast shutter. So, 15 photos or so. And he walks into Culver's. I now have to wait for Secret Service to move out of my way. That takes a couple extra minutes for them to move the motorcade so I can exit out of the Culver's. And that was my brush with politics today.
Wow. Well, let's get into healthcare reform and gun control.
So,
okay, we are not
women's rights.
I was saying earlier too, when I was thinking about making a post after seeing yours, I was thinking, as always with any politics, roughly 50% of our country is going to love what I say, 50% would hate what I say. That's not our goal or agenda or objective here. Clearly very divisive topics when it comes to all of that. So I just abstain from posting anything whatsoever. But regardless of how much you love or hate the figurehead, when someone like that is in town, there is extra hoopla that's going around. To use a really current term, hoopla.
Yes.
There's extra hoopla that's going on. And a few years ago, again, regardless of what political side you fall on, I was leaving the Green Mountain Championships, and sure enough, in Vermont, saw Bernie Sanders and got a photo with him. That was, way back in 2016 or so. So,
and I maybe it's just my son and his friend who are in 5th grade. Would you expect them to know who the vice president is? Would your daughters be able to name the vice president?
My daughter in 5th grade, I could.
You think so?
I believe that she could.
I want you to ask her when you get home if you can name the vice president. Because I said, hey, that's the vice president. And my son looked at me like, what's his name? And I'm like, Mike Pence?
Yeah, but what's his handle on?
Yeah. What's his Fortnite handle? And so neither could name could name the vice president. They both know the president. I mean, that was good. But neither could name the vice president. I was really disappointed. So for the 20-minute ride it was to swim practice, we had a quick civics class about why they're coming to Wisconsin, why Wisconsin's important because it's a swing state, the Electoral College, and then my son was talking about all these YouTube ads he's seeing. He's like, Dad, I see all this guy in YouTube, and he's talking about like healthcare. He's like, what's the deal? I said, well, let me explain universal healthcare real quick. In like the 10-minute universal healthcare primer for my 5th grade son and his friend. But that was, I even though I do know where my son's friends' parents fall on the political spectrum, similar to mine, I kept it very down the middle, I felt.
Well, speaking of YouTube, pulling this around full circle tonight, one of YouTube's brightest Frisbee stars and stars in general is going to be joining us. He's actually going to be joining us in just a few moments. We did a quick check-in with him, make sure that he's good to go. We are going to welcome to the show Brodie Smith. And for those that have been somehow living under a rock or not familiar, we did speak.
He's that guy
him.
from The Amazing Race, right?
Exactly.
That
was his claim to fame, is The Amazing Race. He not only was he featured there, but also he's been throwing and doing Frisbee trick shots, is where we really saw him break into YouTube and break onto the scene of an ultimate player that decided that, hey, there's more that I can do than just playing out on the field and doing amazing things out there. He then started recording these Frisbee trick shots and took to it very early, amassed a huge following on YouTube, and then that continued, like a lot of our other very gifted athletes, that continued to fall into a number of other realms and categories. We've seen him now also dabbling in golf. I'd love to know where he stands with, we'll say, the ball and stick version, traditional style golf, or as some just call it, golf. I know I've seen him dabble in that, and he makes a lot of posts on social media with regards to going out and playing and practicing and getting better at that. But just a few months ago, or a few weeks ago now even, we also saw him, the video release that came out of him teaming up with two of our most electric ambassadors and competitors in the sport in Paul Macbeth and Simon Lizotte. And he did a trick shot challenge with them. He's also then talked about playing golf. And we're excited to find out more where he is, where he stands on it, and what we can expect from him. So pretty incredible. Real quick recap as well. After Brodie, we might be able to get to this weekend's champion that we saw at the A tier. No, I'm not talking about Jennifer Allen, but congratulations to her for taking it down at the Shelley Sharp. She may be on as early as next week. Her and possibly Callie may join us. But we might be able to get Adam Hammis, if the stars align just right, as he took down a pretty decisive win this last weekend at the Shelley Sharp Memorial, presented by Spinners on the Green out in Arizona. I was lucky enough to capture that final round. It's already on YouTube, so you guys can enjoy it. But we might be talking to Adam a little bit later tonight. And then a quick preview for next week's show. We may be talking to Zoe Andyke as she's working on some big developments, so hopefully she's got that secured. And also in the recent news, we saw Next Gen's Colt Breck and Dave Felberg and the entire Next Gen crew. They've got some big developments, so we may be checking in with them as early as next week as well. So it's crazy to think we've got this week kind of scheduled, and even next week. That's how we know things are heating up for the 2020 disc golf season. So Johnny's going to click a button. We're going to see if we can dial in Brodie, get him on Skype, and check in and welcome him to the show for the first time, which may be, in my opinion, a little overdue even. So it'll be glad to have him join us here. And it looks like he's just about ready to go. And as always, we want to thank Disc Baron for the support and also housing our guest in the Disc Baron Digital Green Room. And with that being said, we can welcome to the show Brodie Smith.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Brodie.
How
are
you doing? Are you working on your golf voice as you've been?
I'm doing fantastic.
Oh, good. Well, in this episode of NPR's Disc Golf with Brodie Smith,
we're talking politics with Brodie.
That was Paul's idea. His suggestion was for me to come on and just whisper. I thought it was too funny not to do it.
So you of course referencing Paul Macbeth And as so many of our disc golfers know, we saw you in the trick shot challenge, and then you guys went out and played some golf. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Disc golf, that is.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start there. We sometimes just call it golf. We're going out golfing. If Johnny called me up one day and said, hey, you want to go golfing? I would never think he means with a stick and a ball.
Not us.
But then sometimes we get caught up calling it ball golf or traditional golf instead of golf when you are talking. Like, have you had that crossover yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've played with a couple locals here and there, and they'll talk about golf and they'll just use the term golf, and so I'm slowly trying to get up on the terminology and whatnot. It is a little bit confusing. It's kind of like the soccer and football terminology of where someone says football and you don't really know if they mean soccer. We just assume they mean, American NFL football. But yeah, I'm slowly getting there. I still play ball golf, so it is a little bit tricky because I'm not completely done with that. But yeah, I think the more time goes on, I'll eventually get to just saying golf.
Now, so I was going to say, speaking of jargon, a couple of years ago we had a big ultimate event here in Milwaukee. I think it was a college event, and I was talking with Charlie Eisenhood from Ulta World.
Yeah,
and we were discussing jargon in ultimate versus disc golf, because he says that in ultimate, you guys don't really say the term hyzer, anhyzer, anything like that. Has that been very tough at all, or for you to pick up, or is it just how do you describe it in ultimate then?
Yeah, I think the hyzer and anhyzer, I think that's definitely the technical terms and actually what you probably should use. I don't know why Ultimate Frisbee uses the terms we use, but basically a hyzer is an inside out throw. So essentially you're throwing from the inside of your body out, and it's going to have that, nice little flex, I guess, or hyzer that you guys call, and then come back in. The anhyzer is what we call outside in. Same thing. You're kind of throwing out and coming into your body to make it the Frisbee curve that way. So I think you guys are definitely more on the technical side. I have no idea where that terminology came from in ultimate terms. And for right now, I mean, the hyzer and anhyzer, I've been watching so much footage online that's pretty engraved in my brain now. The stuff that I'm still struggling with is stable and overstable, because again, with the Frisbee, we had to basically make the Frisbee do what we want, where there's a lot of discs that you can throw the same exact way and it'll fade to the right or it'll fade to the left based on the disc, not on the throw. So the overstable, understable, that kind of stuff, I still got to remember, like, okay, does that mean it fades to the left or does that mean it fades to the right? But it's slowly getting there.
And honestly, you're not alone with stable versus understable, overstable, because growing up, we used to say, oh, wow, that disc is really stable, meaning it was overstable. It would hyzer hard to the left for a right-hand backhand. But if you think about it, really stable probably means it flies really flat, as opposed to overstable, which should, hyzer off into the left for, a typical right-hand backhand thrower. So disc golf isn't perfect. We're not there yet as far as our terminology.
But it's good. I mean, the fact that you guys even talk about right-hand backhand and not just say things and just assume everyone's right-handed. A lot of times in ultimate, we just assume everyone's the right-handed side. And so I'd get a lot of things in my tutorials and stuff being like, well, hey, I'm left-handed, so what does that mean? And I think you guys do a really good job of explaining, like, what it means for right-hand backhand, and not for people to just, have to figure that out on themselves.
Yeah, I will say the default, if someone said, oh, it's a, I went out and played in Vegas this weekend, it's just a bunch of hyzers, I would assume you're right-handed, and I would assume, what that looks like. But you're right. Sometimes we do actually have those clarifications. Now, what I think is most telling is anhyzer and hyzer are two really unique words spelled in a very unique fashion for disc golf. And here you are telling us there's almost some sensibility to them, which who would have thought that? Because everybody looks at us like those words are crazy in the first place. And to you, you're saying, yeah, they sound technical and they sound right on. and they're maybe describing words, and they're even shorter than what you say, inside out.
Outside.
Yeah, I think it's way easier for a fan that might not know anything about disc golf to pick up on very quickly. Because again, you guys have there's so many different throws, there's so many different discs. So the inside out, the way ultimate players view it is not necessarily going to be the same when you're throwing an overstable disc or an understable, all these things matter. So the way that you guys kind of phrase it and stuff during the commentary of the broadcast and stuff is it's really easy for a fan to watch 18 holes or, two rounds of golf and pick up on it very quickly and know exactly what you guys are talking about.
So let's backtrack just for a moment to golf, as you mentioned, that you have played. I've known you, most of us know you, and your kind of rise to stardom was playing Ultimate, doing the trick shots. I think I mentioned last week, I think the shot off the bridge was maybe the big moment, that maybe really propelled you. Now, I watched you then almost transition into golf. Where is that at? How did that come about? What are you trying to pursue, or weren't you?
Yeah, sure. So Ultimate Frisbee, obviously, I started that in 2005. That's when I got introduced to the actual sport. I dabbled as far as like our cross country team would play once a month maybe, and we'd play like if 50 people showed up, we'd play 25 on 25, and no one knew anything but a backhand. So I would not say it was Ultimate Frisbee. So my freshman year at University of Florida, 2005, that's when I fell in love with the sport. And at that point, I really wanted to pursue it and see how good I can get. And obviously have had a lot of success in that sport and have done some really awesome things. 3 knee surgeries later, and my last national championship was I think in 2015 with Johnny Bravo. I'm limping around on the field with one leg basically in the finals. And it got to the point of where it wasn't that I couldn't continue to compete. It was I was struggling mentally with not being able to do the things that I once was or knew I could do if I was healthy. And then later on doing the Roughnecks and some of the AUDL seasons and still trying to get back out in the field, it got to the point of where I actually had to sit down and kind of make a decision of if I continue to go down this route, I could seriously injure myself again. And the next injury, I don't know what that looks like. If that means walking would be difficult. And so I really had to kind of take a second to figure out where I wanted to go. And up until that point, I never really thought about it. I just always was like, I'm going to continue to play Ultimate Frisbee until I'm 45. And so at that moment, a couple things kind of all fell into place. Callaway Golf was hitting me up and wanting to do stuff with me. The PGA Tour that year was starting to fly me out to events and stuff. And, I was starting to become friends with some of the PGA Tour guys. And I loved ball golf. I loved ball golf as a really, really young kid. And in the back of my head, I always wanted to give it a shot. And I was like, all right, like, I think maybe this is the time. And so that's when I made the YouTube video basically saying, I'm retiring from Ultimate Frisbee. I'm not going to be trying to get back out in the field anymore. And essentially basically switch gears completely. And for the next year, I would say a year, I really dedicated everything to golf and ball golf and trying to get good and seeing where that would lead. And so I ended up getting to plus 2.5 handicap, which really doesn't matter at all when it comes to golf. It matters how you do in tournaments. But yeah, I was doing pretty good in tournaments, especially the tournaments that were at difficult golf courses. That's where I kind of making a par on a hard hole and making a birdie on an easy hole. Guys that are better than you are going to make birdie on easy holes a lot more than you can make a par on a hard hole. So my philosophy and with the coaches and the team that I had around me were you need to try to find the hardest courses possible to compete. So my big thing is I try to compete for the U.S. Amateur, and I missed the cut by one shot. I was 2 under through 9 holes. The cut ended up being 1 under. and I had a lost ball number two. I don't want to get into it, but one
Yeah.
hole kind of set me
Yep.
back, and I missed that tournament, which would have basically sent me, I think, to the next round for the USAM qualifier. And so it honestly, weird stuff happens. I tweeted this to someone earlier because they were asking me same thing. Where are you doing with ball golf? And I'm very stuff happens for a reason. I take a step back and I see what's going on in the world around me, and I pay attention to that. And so I tried to do this group thing with these guys. That didn't work out with the golf. And I started thinking about like the time commitment, the money commitment, how many times I would have to fly to try to do Monday qualifiers and not even maybe get in. And then also in the back of my head is, these guys have been golfing since they were 5. I'm re-picking up the sport. I golfed when I was a kid, but I really didn't golf more than Top Golf or the occasional like pitch and putt, throughout my entire life. So I'm re-picking this up, and I was like, is this something that I really want to be grinding 8 hours a day? Because that's what you have to do. And this is when like disc golf all of a sudden just kind of slowly like things started happening. And I'll be the first to tell you, I've probably have gotten thousands of messages over the years of, dude, you should play disc golf. Why don't you play disc golf? Dude, you'd be so good at disc golf. And I was always like, I love Ultimate. I have no interest in playing disc golf. And the few times I would go out and play, we would always just use an Ultra Star because we didn't want to mess up our throws because it is a completely different throwing motion for the backhand. So long story short, everything just started happening, and the competitive juices, the competitive vibe, all that stuff that I felt back in 2005 with Ultimate and wanting to be the best and doing everything I could to be the best, that is what I'm feeling right now in disc golf.
And so, maybe, I was just saying, maybe that answers one of the questions that a lot of people, including us, have had, is how serious are you going to take this sport? I mean, you have yourself a huge YouTube audience, and you're known for doing all sorts of fun stuff on YouTube. The big question was, is he doing this for, we'll just say for the views, or is he doing this to become part of the community, become part of the sport, and pursue I won't call it a career, so to speak, but
maybe,
possibly, but to pursue the sport.
Yeah, to answer your question, that's exactly what's happening. Is I'm switching careers. Basically, I've talked to the wife about it, and Kelsey's on board. And just like Ultimate Frisbee was for those, 2005 until basically, 10 years basically in Ultimate Frisbee, of where my main focus was Ultimate Frisbee. Going to the gym was workouts that would help me at Ultimate Frisbee, running tracks, workouts that would help me at Ultimate Frisbee, practices, going out and throwing hundreds of times. And all my emphasis and stuff is now switching into disc golf. And, I've been spending the last, 2 weeks, maybe, I don't know. Time has been flying by. It feels way longer, but it might not even be 2 weeks of when I feel like it was like the beginning of January or something. Yeah. So 2 weeks. Yeah. About 14 days. The first 5 days or so, I would just go out to the field and was working just on form, didn't play. And now the last 3 or 4 days, I've been putting in, 3 to 5 hours a day on the course, just, trying to get those specialty shots and putting a little pressure on myself of you have a 15-footer in the trees, or you have to straddle out, you have a 20-footer, or you've got a 60-footer with what you guys would call the death putt, right? Where you have a hill behind. How are you playing that? So I think the good thing for me, I would say, is one, I literally spent 10 years of my life perfecting how to throw an Ultimate Frisbee, or at least trying to throw it the best I possibly could. So I have that coming into it. And then also on the ball golf side, I have course management. And I also have what it takes to practice, right? Going out and playing all the time, sure, you're going to get better, but you got to spend 2 hours just sitting and putting.
Yep.
Right. And you got to do all that stuff. There's just a lot of drills, a lot of different things that you can take from ball golf and literally do the same exact thing in disc golf to basically make you a better golfer.
Which is funny because I think you're going about this the complete opposite of what most people do. Most people get a disc in their hand, and they want to do nothing but play. I want to go to every course I can find, play. I'll practice later. I'll practice in my free time. I want to play, and you are going about it, I would say,
The
more
right way.
the right way, a more professional way of looking at the future of how you want to pursue the sport is I'm going to get good and then go and use those skills to play.
Yeah,
So-
understanding the basics, doing the field work kind of thing for sure seems to be your method. Now, I'll go ahead and say earlier today you tweeted you had a Paul Macbeth hat on. I can imagine where that came from. Yeah, was it a Peloton?
Peloton, yeah.
A Peloton.
You rock the Peloton?
No. Does it look like I do? No, I don't, but I should. But
We'll get a Smashbox one for
But
in
there
here.
was some irony to me because as I saw you in that shirt today, I thought, hey, I think Johnny and I have a little backpedaling to do. Speaking of those bikes, because last week we were asking ourselves, without you being here, obviously, what were your intentions? And so that's why it's so fitting to have you this week to answer those questions because we were genuinely curious. Is this something he's going to take really seriously, and why and how much are you going to pursue it? And you've made it, I think, abundantly clear that you
Yes.
care about being a good professional and going on and taking this on as a career move, not just, well, I'm going to throw some discs around, to say I kind of completed that or checked it off the list.
Well, the big discussion was, and the bet was, well, how do you feel like your first tournament is going to go? And when is your first tournament? There was a little bit of jockeying back and forth as to what maybe your first PDGA rating, a round rating might be. And Paul Macbeth chimed in at one point saying, it's going to be higher than what you guys think. So where do you stand on this?
Yeah, so for me, it's, I look at things kind of two different ways in life, right? I'm no matter what I do, I love to compete. I love to be competitive. So if I go and I'm bowling, I'm trying to shoot over 100, right? I'm not great at bowling, but I'm trying to be competitive. But there's certain things that I find a passion for, and that's the main thing is ultimate frisbee. I had a passion in that. So waking up in the morning and spending my entire day doing things that would make me a better ultimate frisbee player, that's what my life basically revolved around. And now that is basically switching to disc golf. So this isn't a hobby. This isn't a YouTube career move. This is I'm now going to be doing everything I did in ultimate frisbee, that work ethic, that drive, that competitiveness, that is now basically switching over into a new sport, which is disc golf.
Are you worried at all about your knee? You said you had
No.
some knee. Okay, good.
Do you
He's good.
And I'll piggyback on that and say a lot of the, we'll say, old school ultimate players that are now primarily playing disc golf in our tournament scene, they kind of act like disc golf is where ultimate players go to retire. And you can definitely tell. You see an ultimate player, I think of our beloved Brad Wendt in Wisconsin or one of Illinois' finest, Barrett White, who's a two-time world champion in disc golf and the most enthusiastic ultimate player I know. You can tell when they've played ultimate and then convert over to disc golf. Do you feel like that slower pace is not only good for maybe your body, but does it feel like a step down at all for you after playing so fiercely?
No, I would say, I think it's two different sports. And I think one thing that I'm going to try to do on the social side of things and with the audience that I created through Ultimate Frisbee is to try to open people to a new sport. I think a lot of people on the ultimate side do look at disc golf as, oh, I don't want to do that, or I'm not interested in that. But I think a lot of people don't really realize that it's actually a legit competitive sport. And that's the thing I think that drives a lot of people. Now, if I think, because this all kind of spewed with the whole Simon and Paul video where I said, I would enter a disc golf tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started kind of doing a little digging, a little researching, watching and stuff. And once you start seeing that this is legit and the broadcasts are amazing, the courses are awesome, or at least, obviously might be some courses out there that people don't like, but at least the ones I have watched seem to be pretty sweet. And then you've got these guys going out there and performing and literally doing well. I think that's going to spark an interest in a lot of people because on the ultimate side, yes, did I love it? 100%. But if I know what I knew, if I know what I knew now, if I knew what I know now, whatever I'm trying to say, like 5, 6 years ago, I think I definitely would have splashed into disc golf a little sooner. I don't think it's reaching out to as many people possible right now.
So why not? What are we missing? I mean, this is great. Not only your social media, presence, but just in general, what is disc golf missing that we're not nearly as big as Ultimate?
You think? Oh man, I would actually challenge you.
Yeah,
I think disc golf might be bigger.
It's such a I think we've discussed before. It's such a different, like, disc golf. You can go up by yourself or with one buddy. You can't do that with Ultimate. So I bet you the numbers are bigger for disc golf, but I think maybe the exposure is bigger for Ultimate because it skews heavily college. And I think there, in that manner, it feels like Ultimate is bigger.
What do you mean? Like being on TV, basically? Is that?
Well, I mean, I think our YouTube presence is bigger than Ultimate.
100% it is.
Yeah, but we've had literally a handful of broadcast ever put out outside of YouTube. We'll say on any form of national television or ESPN or anything like that. We've had almost none of that. I mean, of course, we've had a few of the highlights, a few of the aces and top 10 moments, as does Ultimate. But you've never been able to sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to take in some disc golf on ESPN this weekend. Whereas college and the Ultimate Championships, wherever they might be, international or here, that at least will grace an ESPN from time to time. Or should we not worry about any of those metrics anymore? Do we not care about things like ESPN?
I would say right now the most important thing is just to try to get more people out in the course, especially young kids. Like I think what you kind of mentioned earlier is 100% true. You literally, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could buy one disc for $15, and there are dozens of courses that are completely free to play that you could walk out and play. And you can't do that in Ultimate Frisbee. There are so many people sending me messages saying, I want to play Ultimate Frisbee, but there's no teams. Or I'm 15 years old and no one, I'm not old enough to play on any of the teams in my area. What can I do? And like you can try to get your high school to start a team, but other than that, I mean, there's really not much that you can do. So the barrier to entry into this sport is almost nothing. And the fact that you guys have all these courses, I mean, I've played 3 or 4 courses in the Dallas area. And again, I'm completely new, so I'm sure the courses I've played, some people are like, why are you playing that course? You should be playing this course. It's way better. But in my mind, they're all fun, and I've enjoyed all of them. So I think right now the focus really, I think sometimes people get too stuck with trying to go after like the ESPNs and trying to do all that, which again, like I'm completely fine with. If I can have talks with the PDGA and I can help in any way to try to get some interest in maybe having something on ESPN too, like the World Championships or whatever. I don't think I can really do anything like that, but that's something I think they should be working on to try to maybe get exposure that way. But the exposure that you guys have already is insane. I think now it's just about building it out to try to get the youth in there, because really you really want to be able to have a sport where every year younger and younger people are getting into it, because then you have, and that's something that like ball golf struggles with, right? Is they have not that many young people in the sport.
All the barriers to entry, the cost, the travel to get there, all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that one disc, like you were just saying, just like how him and I started in the mid-'90s when we were teenagers, one disc, you could play literally for 8 hours a day on a dozen courses in your area, and you could do that for an entire year on an $8 disc. I mean, and that's how so many people get started. That doesn't even compare to what you find in golf.
So you're coming into the sport, arguably the biggest name in disc golf, just right off the bat, based on your YouTube following, your presence, your history with major markets and media. Do you feel any pressure now that people might be looking to you to say, hey, maybe Brodie can bring in these sponsors. Maybe Brodie can bring in Samsung, or
let's go, Brodie's our guy.
Or Whirlpool, or some of the people you've worked with in the past. Do you feel any pressure there?
No, I mean, again, like my main purpose is I would say just like pretty much anyone else that's competing in the sport is to try to do the absolute best they can do. Like that's my main focus. Now, with doing so, yeah, I'm going to be doing YouTube videos based around disc golf. I have plans of doing YouTube videos with other athletes and celebrities around disc golf and that all that stuff will obviously help exposure. And I have some relationships with some big companies and brands and stuff. And so, you know, could that mean all of a sudden Wendy's is sponsoring a tournament or, or
Arby's?
whatever? Wait, what'd you say?
Arby's,
Arby's,
who has now stamped disc and shown interest in disc
There you
golf.
go.
So someone at Arby's is watching and listening. So yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think any of that stuff is out of the idea or possibility. And the sport that I really look at is like, I'm blanking on it. Hold on. CrossFit. So I was a little bit familiar with CrossFit back in the day, and it was one of those kind of sports that, you had little pockets here and there. And it wasn't really until Reebok came in and threw money at it and really blew it up to what it is now that really made that sport massive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that is definitely possible. Is it this year, next year, 5, 10 years from now? Who knows? But I think, a company basically giving a chance with disc golf and saying, you know what, like this is a sport that we can get behind. This is something that we enjoy and we want to throw some money at. I mean, if we're talking now, the top players, all of them, like let's just say the top 20 guys now are all making enough money simply to play. That's going to make tournaments way more exciting because those guys are now going to be basically practicing their entire weeks based around disc golf. And if they're not, someone else is going to, and they're going to take their spot, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that grows. Obviously, too, like having a big sponsor come in, I think that allows kind of the sponsors right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the sponsors right now are like the disc companies or the disc manufacturers and stuff where, you relate. I think disc golf can do a lot of things to look at like regular ball golf basically and see how their tournaments are run and learn a lot of ways of like, hey, can we get to that point? Because think about how incredible a tournament would be is instead of one of these disc companies sponsoring it, you have Arby's sponsoring it. And then these disc companies now can just use that money to give more to their players or to also market themselves out more and do more like commercial kind of stuff versus putting all the money into the tournament, if that makes sense.
And who doesn't want to roast beef on hole 3?
Yeah, beef and cheddar. No, Brodie, to put it bluntly, you're thinking exactly kind of what we've been thinking for 10 or 15, even 20 years now. I mean, we've always, even when I got into it, like I said, in the early 90s, it had just crested MTV. There was a 3-minute piece on MTV Sports that talked about disc golf, which I have on a VHS somewhere, and it's like, wow. Oh my God, this thing's gonna blow up tomorrow, and it's gonna get so big, and we just need Coca-Cola or Nike or Adidas or somebody to get on board. So everything you're talking about, people have been kind of anxiously waiting for. It's just, when is that magic tipping point going to arrive? And maybe you have some influence on it directly or indirectly. It could be just a stroke of good luck. I've always said I feel like the CEO at a place like Coca-Cola, their kid may play and all of a sudden they come home and the parents
that's
are
all
like,
you need.
Hey, what are you doing? And
I've gotten a lot of brand deals that way where they're like, I had no idea who you were, but my kid watches your videos, so
Bingo.
I think we should do something. I'm like, that sounds good to me. So
along those lines, I've said this for years, and we're starting to worry about it. And it's not a defeatist approach, but are we not getting the views and are we not getting big galleries because we don't have sponsors? Or is it because the sponsors aren't seeing the views? Are we chasing our own tail? Are we not as cool as we think we are? And disc golf maybe forever will be a niche sport because maybe other people who don't throw just don't find it as appealing as we all do? What is? Do you have any idea?
All right, so you'll have to give me some numbers because I haven't actually watched any broadcast live. So what are the live broadcast numbers?
We'll get anywhere from, depending on, who's on the card, but we'll say for a smaller event, 1,500 concurrent viewers, and then for the larger, like for Worlds this year, we hit 15,000 concurrent viewers, and most of the MPO rounds will average 3,500 for a round, and then you're looking at, if those are concurrent views, if you look at the not the post-production, but the total number of views on a live broadcast, it's anywhere from 20 to 40,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And okay, so going off of that and kind of going off of some of the numbers that I see on YouTube, like there's clearly a lot of people interested in disc golf, but the question is, how do you get them interested in these tournaments to watch, right? Because they're willing to watch them when it pops up on their YouTube feed. But the question is, can you convert that into someone that has to be watching every single tournament? And I think a lot of that, honestly, has to come with player development. So you look at something like the UFC. I have zero interest ever getting into an octagon. I have zero interest in getting punched in the face or punching someone. But I literally watch every single fight night. And you better believe I'm watching this Saturday, because Connor's going to be doing absolute work. Not sure if anyone's watching that are Conor McGregor fans, but he's coming back. So it's like, so how does that happen? How does someone that has no interest in this in actually participating in the sport, but enjoys watching it? Same thing with like football, basketball, all these things that I don't really necessarily go out and do myself, but I do enjoy watching it. And I think a lot of that has to do with not only the skill that these people are doing, which I think right now that is there. They're watching these videos. There are plenty of guys that are doing insane things with the disc that is going to make someone watch and be like, this is incredible. I think the next step, though, is the player development. It's the same thing like the PGA Tour does, is they're constantly trying to push these younger players to get people to know who they are. And I think that's starting to happen with disc golf, is you're starting to get more and more household names. People are starting to figure out who these people are. And also the players themselves, a lot of that has to do with them putting themselves out there on social media, letting people know who they actually are, because at the end of the day, you have to be somehow relatable or something. You either need to be relatable or you need to be super hated.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of two things for people to tune in, right? And I think that's slowly starting to happen.
Well, you have to have a personality is what I always say. And that goes exactly what you're saying. You're either loved or hated, but you have to have some personality. Otherwise, you're just completely swept under the rug and no one's thinking about you. I guess I always wonder, is disc golf, you mentioned all those sports that have certain barriers to entry, whether it's because it's a team format or because you don't want to get punched in the face. But disc golf, if it's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, we'll just say across the country, we may lose a few thousand viewers because they're going to go out and play that Saturday instead of watching Brodie play on the lead card at a big tournament, because they're like, yeah, I could watch it later, or, I'm just not interested enough to forego a beautiful Saturday afternoon because I can go play at my local park down the road and it's a free afternoon of recreation. And that's where I don't know how we, like you said, get those to convert to must-see eyes.
The diehards. That's what you really. I mean, you're going to have the casuals that bounce in every once in a while, and they have nothing going on, and they see it's on, and they're going to watch. But you really got to grow the diehards, and that is tricky, right? That is tricky. But again, I think it's one of those things of where if the players can create a fan base. Just imagine each player on the league card has 2,000 people that are diehard fans. So no matter what they're doing, brushing their teeth, going to their mom's house over the holidays, they're tuning in, they're trying to figure out. Don't you think they would 100% tune into a tournament if they're like, hey, I'm playing in this tournament, you can watch me here? If they're willing to do all this other stuff kind of thing. So right there, if you have 2,000 people for each of the person on the league card, that's 8,000 people.
That
are tuning in for that. So I think it's getting there. I really do. I mean, I'm starting to see people starting to post a lot more on social media and stuff, which is awesome. And I think the broadcasts are starting to do, again, I don't know where you guys came from, but from what I'm seeing right now is a huge, huge improvement from when I did the video with Avery and Simon, 5 years or so ago.
Well, we really have this. There's two lines of thought in disc golf. You've clearly worked with Jomez, who has the biggest following and puts out the most well-polished post-production videos in our sport. And then and there's now a number. I do some post-production in Central Coast, and there's a number of other channels that do post-production. And then we are pretty much the primary solution for the live broadcast. And I think the big challenge is the post-production options are compact, and they're coming out 20 hours later, and they're really well polished. So some people in this, especially in this day and age, some people are like, I'm going to go play. I don't want to watch a 3-hour round. I'll catch it in a condensed format the next day. And that becomes just the argument. And some people are like, heck no, I'm not waiting 24 hours. I need to see who wins this now. And that's, I think, where our sport is at, is there's those conflicting opinions as to where you stand. Do you need the sport and the competition live, or are you going to, check your phone and make sure you don't get spoiled and then get it the next day? That's kind of the two camps you're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I guess the question would be, too, like the national championship game was last night. How many people recorded that and watched it today?
0.
Yeah, it's 0.
Right? You're
if you're going to watch the game, you're going to watch it live because you don't want to miss out. And again, I think a lot of that has to kind of, obviously this happened before social media, but a lot of that does kind of have that like FOMO. They don't want to miss out. They don't want to miss out on the funny memes that are being tweeted live and stuff. And so I think the more you can kind of build that social media presence around it, the more people are going to tune in. I don't know, maybe not, but
no, you're exactly right.
You're right. Well, let's take a step back again and talk a little bit about sponsorship. A lot of people are asking, are you going to be sponsored by a manufacturer in the sport? That's primarily how our players are sponsored. You have a relationship with Paul, and you're very familiar with the Ultrastar, so I think a lot of people immediately put you in the Discraft camp, but where do you stand, and what are you throwing right now?
Yeah, so I've been in talks with pretty much everyone the last couple weeks now, a week and a half or so, and pretty much just listening to everyone. And again, this was something that was completely brand new to me. Ultimate Frisbee, we had no sponsorships. No team was really sponsored. And definitely no individual was sponsored. But I understand that disc golf is a different ball game, right? Like there's really not that many people out there that are throwing from this company and this company and this company and doing all this stuff. And I kind of realized from the get-go that it probably makes the most sense for me to find someone that is going to obviously support me, but mainly a partnership that is going to be able to produce a lot of amazing stuff for disc golf, and be able to kind of grow the sport that way. So nothing is finalized as of yet, and I can't necessarily say what I'm throwing as of yet, but I'm close. I'll tell you that much.
I got a few things to. First of all, you don't watch us. Hopefully, you'll start. We go for the exclusives here. So if you're going to spill any beans, here's the place you have to do it. That's an official rule in disc golf.
I'll let him drop it onto social media like 10 minutes before he comes on. But
but along with that though, understanding you probably, like you said, have an entire palette of people in front of you that are looking to support you, team up with you, and I think about the various alignments, and I'm going to throw out some companies. Like Johnny said, obviously Discraft and the history with Ultimate. I'm sure you've had some talks with them throughout the years.
Shout out to Bob.
I know you have a relationship. Obviously, you've been talking with people like Paul as well over there. And then I think of like what you just said, Dynamic Discs, and what they can do, and where they have, I would say, a very focused
media
agenda, and that may fit into your category. And then you think of someone like Innova, who's, kind of came late to the Ultimate game with their disc, but then they really jumped on heavy when it came to supporting the AUDL, right? They were the official disc.
They were the MLU.
MLU, sorry, I got them backwards.
That's fine.
So Yeah, I think you probably have some really big decisions. So you may not be able to tell us what you're going to throw, but you've been dabbling. What are you throwing today? Like when you went out and played today, no one's going to have hurt feelings. What disc were you throwing?
So right now I'm throwing a lot of pretty much just mids and putters. That's all I'm throwing.
Made by.
He's not going to tell you.
All right. Well, okay.
But yeah, right now I'm. So me and Simon are flying up to Paul's at the end of this month, and we're doing, which is now kind of funny. We're doing a boot camp because he's in a boot now. But
ouch.
We're going to be doing like a 5. I think we're there for 5 or 6 days. We're going to be obviously making content and whatnot, but the most important thing there is me trying to figure out and pick these guys' brains as much as I possibly can. And that's something, someone actually said that to me on the disc golf course the other day, which is actually really funny because that was my big thing in Ultimate was if you want to get good, you need to talk to people that are better than you. And you can't be afraid, because being like a freshman on the team, it was very scary to go up to these seniors that were way better than me and ask them questions. Same thing in disc golf. It's probably terrifying to going up to someone on the course and being like, hey, I just saw you throw that. Do you mind taking 5 seconds to show me how you did that? That's the only way you're really going to get better. So obviously when I got into this sport, the first thing I did was let me reach out to the people I know, Paul and Simon. And then I've actually made a couple connections with some of the other pros as well. And I'm just basically trying to get all the information as possible, as much information as possible, using the stuff that works and makes sense and working on the stuff that I'm not good at. But yeah, right now I'm basically only throwing mids and putters around. I'm playing pretty much super short courses. They're all like, the longest hole are about 400 feet. There's a lot of 200 feet or 250, that kind of range. And I'm just working on figuring out all the different things you can do with different discs, because that's the big thing. Again, like the Frisbee, it was one Frisbee. You had to figure out how to manipulate it. Now it's like, okay, I need this thing to start out right. I need it to start bending left, and then I need it to fade right at the hole. And it's like, okay, there's a disc for that. And now it's working on the angles. And the one thing that I was really working on today was the different trajectories. So the last couple of days, I've been really focusing on just trying to get that flat release. And today I finally started working on, okay, if I throw this thing 50 feet in the 50 feet in the air, it's going to react completely different than if I throw it 20 feet off the ground. And so I'm starting to kind of get the angles and the ideas of how to carve, because that's at the end of the day, if it's open, it's just going to come down to whoever's the best putter, who can throw the farthest and whoever's the best putter. But a lot of these tournaments, you see these courses, you have to be a shot shaper. You have to be able to understand how you can manipulate that disc to do what you want. So that's basically what I'm focusing on right now. But probably not the answer you wanted. But like I said, it's coming soon.
So that was the follow-up, as people are hounding us on Facebook or YouTube message board at least. When do you plan to make maybe that announcement or that commitment to any given sponsor? Are you in any kind of hurry? I mean, and we also know, to follow that, Paul obviously with Discraft, Simon with Discmania. You've got two of our most prolific, Avery with Innova and Discmania. I know you've worked with him, but when do you think you'll be comfortable making that kind of announcement? Or are you still just playing the field, so to speak?
Yeah, so I was actually trying to figure this out as soon as possible because I can't really make any social media content. Obviously, I've posted a few things on Instagram, but I can't really post anything on YouTube yet because I don't want to start throwing random discs and then be like, oh, those are not there anymore, especially because I'm kind of introducing this sport to probably a lot of people on YouTube. I don't want it to be confusing. I want it to be kind of
cohesive.
Yes, from
consistent.
The start.
Sure.
Exactly. So
you're just waiting for the check to grow, and then you'll finally be ready to sign it.
I'll be the first to tell you that it's not about the money. That's definitely the thing. It's definitely more about the opportunity and also who I think I'm going to be able to have the most impact on the sport. Playing wise, but then at the same time, like growing the sport as well. Those are the two things that I'm really looking at.
Well, you just said it's not about the money, and again, two veterans of the game, we know disc golf isn't about the money really for anyone yet, with the exception
disc golf was not a financial move.
No, exactly.
Yeah, run that one by your wife. No, hun, this is going to... No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So Paul, Eagle, Simon, Ricky, our elite few are making real money, but it's clearly the sport is about passion and love and Frisbee and all of those types of things. What is that like coming from Ultimate, which also traditionally hasn't been about the money? Now there's a little bit of money in disc golf, as Ultimate kind of had maybe with your, the leagues forming and all. But are you trending at least in the right direction for financial stability here in throwing Frisbees around, or is YouTube just like?
Yeah. So on the Ultimate side, there really wasn't any money. I think the player contracts are like $50 a game or something insane like that. The pro, like the semi-pro league, it was super awesome when it came out because we were all used to shoveling $2,000-$3,000 a year on travel, jerseys, tournament fees. So when that came out and they're like, oh, you don't have to pay that anymore, it was great. So the $50 is nice, but it was more about not having to spend $3,000 every year on Ultimate Frisbee. But yeah, the disc golf side, there are obviously opportunities financially, but my financial advisor, my agent, all those people probably would not say like, this is the smartest, like you've got a YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers, just focus on that, where I'm like, at the end of the day, like I miss competing. That's the thing. Like I miss competing. I miss the competition, and I'm already starting to trash talk Paul and Simon. I love it. Like that's what I miss.
Do you know what your first competition is going to be? And when you get there, are you just going to play pro, or will you start out in the advanced division, depending on where your skills are at that point, where maybe the competition is a little bit more level for you? Or are you just going to go after the big boys?
Yeah, so, as far as like a tournament schedule goes, I definitely know that I'm not going to only play one tournament this year. I could potentially be playing 15 tournaments. I could be potentially playing 10, 20. I don't know exactly how that's going to work out. And as far as what tournaments and stuff and when, I'm not going to enter a tournament until I know I can compete. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't see it being super beneficial for me to enter a tournament without having all the tools to be able to compete. And then at that point, once I have all the tools and I know that I can throw a driver X amount of feet, I know I have all the shots. I have the forehand, I have the backhand, I have all the different throws, I have the putting, I have everything. Now it's, can you do it under pressure? And that's what the tournament play is going to really help me at. But entering a tournament without having a tool, whatever that may be, is just not something I'm super interested in doing right now. So right now it's just focusing on advancing and trying to get as good as possible and getting all those tools I need to compete. And then once I have all those, whether that's going into, at the end of the day, like if I feel like I compete, then I'm going to play in the best tournament with the best people as possible, because that's how you get better. You play. I have no interest in winning like I was talking to some of the local guys and they were talking about how some people like play in lower levels to try to win and just like get free plastic and all that stuff. And I understand there might be people out there trying to do that stuff. But for me, like I want to compete against the best possible people I can compete against. And if that's going and getting spanked by 20 shots against Paul and Simon and Ricky and all those guys, I'd rather do that and learn a whole bunch and be able to go back and start grinding and working on all the things I learned than going and winning a tournament by 2 or 3 shots and not really feeling like I was pushed, if that makes sense. Or even just like getting in the middle of a tournament. I think throwing yourself in the fire is the best way of figuring out how not to get burned.
Well, and I think you're going to get to a tournament once you feel like you have all of those shots, you're comfortable, you've practiced, and then you're going to get to the tournament and realize, wait, I just learned 10 new things that I didn't even think about. That's
Absolutely.
Part of that tournament experience when you see a Ricky Wysocki throw a particular style or a stance, and he executes a shot, and you're like, what did he just do? Like it still even blows all of our minds sometimes, with how good these guys can be. And my one piece of advice is don't trust Simon's approach on everything. He's a little more creative and showman than most. Simon has the 300-foot easy shot, or he can take the 500-foot crazy shot that's going to wow the crowd, and he takes the 500-footer 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So
hey, highlight reels, you got to do it sometimes, right?
That's why he's called the human highlight reel. Exactly.
Where do you feel right now your strengths are? Being an ultimate player, you've coming into the sport with a forehand and a backhand. You said you're working with your mid-ranges and putters, which is obviously, as we tell everybody, a great place to start. Where are your strengths?
I would say right now 250 and in, I'm feeling pretty good. And I feel like I've played in 3 or 4 different courses that are all different kind of styles that require you to kind of have a bunch of different shots. To me, throwing the Frisbee for 10 years and seeing the flight path and just feeling what that feels like, the touch shots, those 250 and in shots that require a lot of touch, I think that's where I'm going to have my most strength right now, currently. And then now, the one thing that I'm not too worried about, because I feel like once I get my form right and I figure out how to throw nose down with the driver and do all those things and not have that swooping motion with pulling it back and really utilizing my hips and, not worrying about, having to throw around a mark, the driving and the distance will be there. That's just going to come with time and form and just syncing up the body to that new kind of technique. But yeah, right now I feel really good 250 and in.
Do you feel like, was there an influence from, say, Paul and Simon that said, hey, let's focus on you being able to throw and control mids and putters and then move towards something a little faster? Where did that conscious decision come from?
Well, I had like 4 discs.
Dark Horse Buzzes?
Dark Horse Buzzes that I was selling already.
Yep.
So outside of that, I basically grabbed a bunch of the Buzzes, and then I think I had like a Destroyer, I had a T-Bird, I had a 10-time AVR.
KC AVR. You don't need that anymore.
Which I honestly didn't really know was a big deal until I was throwing it one day, and some guy's like, "You have this?" I was like, "Yep, this is my putter."
Yeah, brand new one of those runs about $100. They're sought after because of Okay, go on.
It's nice. I like it.
There you go.
But yeah, I basically took a picture of those discs and I texted Simon and Paul and I said, "What should I do?" And they said, "Just throw the Buzzes in the putter. That's it." And he didn't even say Paul was like, "Don't really worry too much about putting. We're going to be able to grind a lot of that out once I get up there." But I mean, I've already watched probably 30 hours, I would say, of YouTube coverage. And so I've already kind of seen all the different type of styles of putting and have already kind of gotten my own kind of, this is my go-to kind of thing. So I've already kind of done that a little bit. What?
I was going to say, I saw today on a social media post, you were talking about a straddle putt, how you feel like turning your feet both one direction, so to speak. I more of like an ultimate throw. You felt much more comfortable doing that. Are you a preferred straddle putter or are you preferred stagger, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back?
So yeah, I don't think I explained that well because a lot of people were questioning that as well. So there was a tree in front of that disc, and so I normally like to throw with my right foot behind the disc and my left foot a little staggered behind, so kind of like stacked up.
Yeah. Okay.
The straddle putting that I was doing was similar to I think how Paige normally putts, and I think it's Kevin Jones. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I messed it.
Yeah, that's Kevin.
But yeah, so they kind of do when they straddle, they kind of do like the wide stance as if they were kind of doing what I call like the Ray Lewis stretch, right?
Yes.
And they do the disc through the legs and then up. So I was messing around with that, and for whatever reason, it just didn't feel right. It just felt very awkward to me. And so all I literally did was, instead of having my feet pointing towards the target, I just shifted them sideways. And that was very similar to what the throw would be that I've done tens of thousands of times in a ultimate game where you step around the mark and you throw like that. And it gets me far enough away from the tree, and that's just a motion that feels so natural to me. So like I missed 2 straddle putts. I always feel like I just don't have the right height or distance with them. And then I did that, and I made 3 in a row doing that, and I was like, okay, maybe this is what needs to be done. And with putting, there's definitely certain things, same with ball golf, there's definitely certain things that all good putters do, but whatever feels comfortable to you with those important fundamentals, that's the most important thing. So, I was just curious. Like, does anyone else putt like this when they've got like a tree in their way or something?
I saw a few people respond that they felt more comfortable that way and such, which is good. As like you said, we've all said this. Start with what feels comfortable and work from there, and it can only improve.
Yeah, there's a lot of unique putting stances out there, and to give you a little bit of a throwback, if you can find footage of Ron Russell or of Brad Hammock, there are a couple of really unique putting styles where they're not really looking at the basket until the last moment, and they line themselves up. Ron Russell, was definitely one of the best. He's the 2000 world champion. 99, sorry.
I was almost going to hit you.
Where are they looking at before they throw?
He's looking down or away.
Or totally away.
Yeah, he turns his whole side and then suddenly up and look, and it's like as soon as his eyes hit the basket, the disc is out of his hand. It is with Ron Russell's very unique. It was 99.
99, of course. His PDGA number.
9999.
I think that's like the Matthew Wolf swing, where it's like it works for him, but it's definitely probably something you don't teach someone new.
100%, yes,
correct.
and very unorthodox.
Insane.
I want to talk a little bit about you're looking right now at competition, but as we've seen with disc golf, and you can talk to most of the pros, there is a life inside of disc golf, but outside of playing, with things like commentary, live broadcasting, obviously, your YouTube, your blogging and stuff like that. How much of that do you want to get into? Are you gonna be looking at doing post-production commentary on videos that maybe you at some point, hopefully, you will be a competing player in?
Yeah, I'm interested in doing everything as long as it doesn't take away from my training and competing. So, if I'm at a tournament, I'm probably not going to want to be doing too much stuff that especially early on, right? Like if I go and I have a bad round, I don't necessarily want to have obligations after that round to do something. When I'm like, no, I need to practice this thing I was really struggling with. I need to figure this out for tomorrow. But with that being said, like I have plans of going down to, this is one tournament that I will be at probably, but won't be playing, is the one in Waco.
Yep.
The big one in Waco.
Yeah.
Paul's going to come down here. We're going to train a little bit in Dallas beforehand, and then me and him are going to drive down to that one. And there's probably a handful of other tournaments that I'll be at as well, not playing. Those I am completely fine with doing anything that's going to help the sport. It just goes back to like if I'm there competing and stuff, that is my main focus. And if it's something that I feel like may take away from my ability to compete, then I'm probably not going to be interested in doing it. But I'm down with pretty much doing everything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll follow that up and say, do you feel like the disc golf community, how is it different from what you experience in the ultimate community? Because I feel like we're clearly passionate. Are we welcoming? Are we harsh? How is that?
Are we overwhelming? I mean,
overwhelming.
A lot of people are probably coming at you right now with so much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say what you guys are doing right, that is really refreshing, is you understand that you aren't one of the top 4 sports, right? And so everyone, from what I'm gathering, everyone is trying to work together, from the companies to the pros, all the way down to the just the average guys that go out after work and get around in. And I think that's one thing that ultimate we kind of struggle with is if you don't have the same mindset as us, then we don't want to associate ourselves with you. And I was always under the impression of I'd rather have everyone love throwing the frisbee like I do. And if they want to play barefoot, great. If they want to play super serious, that's fine. If they want to play co-ed, that's fine. Everyone should be welcoming to everyone instead of saying you have to do it this way or get out. And from what I've gathered so far and being on the course and stuff, like everyone's super chill and super cool. And I think that's awesome. I mean, I think, you know, these guys asked if I wanted to play with them and I was like, sure, let's play around. And I did that. And then, you know, there's other times where people will ask and I'll be like, hey, I'm just kind of grinding and working on some stuff. And they're completely respectful as well. And so I think every side of the spectrum there, you know, that should be in every sport disc golf has. And that's one thing that I felt like Ultimate wasn't doing a great job of was they were very like close knit. And if you weren't in their circle, then you were kind of an outsider and an outcast. So,
well, and that made also just have a little bit of that team mentality as well. Like we discussed earlier, disc golf is so easy to walk up. And if there's a twosome playing, it's not crazy for a third and a fourth to just join them. Whereas Ultimate, you rarely have.
You're not going to walk up on a game and just say, "Hey guys, can I play?"
Yeah.
Usually not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that might foster some of those relationships.
I was actually talking more like on the. I think you guys were talking a little bit political, so I don't want to jump into that before.
Oh no, that weird.
Jumped on.
It's okay.
But I was talking more on the political side of things on the Ultimate world of like if you don't have the same mindset of how the game should be played, or for example, like I wasn't a big fan of spirit circles. I'll just be the first to tell you, if someone beats me, I'm going to shake your hand and say good job. But the last thing I want to do right after I lose a big game is get in a circle with everyone and have the other team tell me, you did really good, man. Hopefully next year you guys can, you know, be better. Like I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. And so I don't think there should be anything against someone that doesn't want to participate in that. And so with disc golf, I haven't seen anything like that. If you want to go out there and throw with your dog, fine. If you want to go out there and drink beers and throw, fine. If you want to go out there and grind on 20-foot putts, fine. Like, it just seems like it's a cool sport that literally allows everyone to come and enjoy it.
Yeah, as long as there's a few cardinal sins that you can't break.
Tell me.
You know, well, number one, and you've already probably seen it or maybe even been introduced to it. Hopefully not, but you probably have. Number one is when you get to obviously littering. That's just a general life rule, but unfortunately in disc golf, some people are too lazy for that. But the number two, maybe right behind it, is the disc chargers. You get to a bench and you see someone has graffitied. Yeah, so what you'll see these, trust me. You get to a bench on hole 7 and there'll be a nice bench, usually wooden, and then all of a sudden there'll be a big circle on it, and inside it'll say something like disc charger, and some vandal thought it was hilarious to trace their disc and then claim that that's what charges your disc, that kind of thing. So just the general, you know, anti-vandalism theme, which I know you're not going to be part of.
Don't write on baskets. I mean, this is what things we tell.
Don't put stickers on baskets.
Yeah, I mean, these are all things that probably sound obvious to you, but unfortunately, some of our newer players, you have to.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing as, and I think maybe that's where the free aspect comes into play a little bit more. Where
absolutely,
you know. Ball golf has that too, though. I mean, there's a lot of things that you would think everyone that plays ball golf would know, like repair your ball marks.
Sure.
You know, sometimes you go on a green and there's like 20 ball marks that no one, you know, and you're like, okay, you can tell when you're at a public course versus a private course, right? And so, unfortunately, right now, a lot of well, not unfortunately, but a lot of the people playing disc golf, there might not be like they might not have any idea on certain things. But what you just said seems pretty obvious to any decent human beings.
Well, and don't, you know, there was a little banter this weekend. 3 younger kids took a picture of themselves while they were posing and sitting on top of a basket, in or on a basket. And it's like, sure, you guys might all be teenagers and weigh 130 pounds.
But you can bin the basket.
Yeah, don't sit on a basket. Just like don't vandalize it. Those are some of the things that, whether you're naive or you're trying to be malicious or not, those are just some of the rules that you hopefully learn from the right people moving forward.
Yeah.
But
and I think those are young. Let's talk real. We'll wrap this up here pretty quick. But you said you've watched countless hours right now of online video. You're in communication with Paul and Simon, and I'm sure you have Avery's number. I'm sure it's number 2 on your speed dial. Is there anybody else that you've seen that you look at on these videos and you go, wow, that is somebody I would really love to pick their brain. I like the way they're doing X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Eagle, from a forehand aspect, like that was my go-to throw in Ultimate. And I think, from watching a lot of the broadcasts, he has another level, I would say, than some of the guys with his forehand. So definitely would love to watch him in person and pick his brain a little bit on what he's doing to generate that extra power. And then also just some of the lines he does, I think Ricky and his putting has been pretty fun to watch. I've been talking to Drew and Garrett as well, because those guys can literally just bomb it off the tee. And so I think off the tee, watching a lot of times, it's definitely important to get distance, but especially playing these shorter courses and stuff, there's certain times where getting 500 feet off the tee, great. That's a huge advantage. But there's other times where like 450, if you can do that every time and be in play, you're going to make birdie from that spot. So getting those extra 50 feet, it's the same thing in golf, right? Like I can hit the golf ball 340 off the tee if I really want to. But there's certain times where hitting 310 is going to make me in play and have me get just as great a birdie opportunity as hitting at 340, where 340 is going to bring in a lot of trouble. So I think Paul is fantastic with that. I think he might be one of the best with the course management side of things. And there's just certain things that I'm picking up on, and that I'm trying to incorporate into my game, trying to see like, hey, if I go right at the basket and I miss a little right, I might hit this tree and have no shot at a birdie. But if I aim 10 feet left of the basket and I miss right, I'm going to be close to the basket. Or if I miss left, I'm going to be 20 feet away. But regardless, I'm going to have a birdie putt. So there's certain things like that where it's like, you don't always have to try to make the shot from 200 feet. It's more about, can you consistently make birdie from 200 feet? That's what I'm kind of learning with a lot of these guys, is they play the course a certain way to where they don't put themselves in trouble. Because from what I can gather, you don't really make big numbers like in like ball golf. Like I'm sure you do. I mean,
oh, you do. You can.
Shout out to Paul on that one hole. I think he made like an 8 or a 9.
Oh yeah, at USDGC, was it hole 12 or 13 where he just couldn't keep it in bounds. I mean, any normal human.
Hey, hand me that bottle of salt. Let's just, Paul, we know you and Hannah are watching. Brodie's busting you out.
I had to jab him a little bit. Can't give him too much credit.
Well deserved.
Salt right on that ankle of his. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you watch his rounds, and he might make a bogey once a tournament. So, like, the top guys are not making 6s and 7s.
Correct.
The real difference is who's making birdie versus par. That's really, and again, the eagle isn't really happening that much on those par 5s, right? So what I can gather is it's all about increasing your birdie chances, and inside of 33 feet, the more chances you can have at inside of 33 feet on every single hole. If that's your goal, not necessarily like, hey, how can I put this to 2 feet next to the basket? It's more about the same thing in ball golf. When you have a 30-foot putt, yeah, it'd be nice to make that, but it'd also be really nice to only have a 3-footer left and not a 5-footer or a 6-footer. So the whole lag putting idea is the same thing I think in disc golf is, how do I lag this thing up there to give me a legitimate chance to make birdie? So it's fun. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've perfectly hit on one of the best concepts in disc golf, and of course, as it crosses over, that you don't need to park it, as we like to say. You don't need to put it close. You just need to get it into your comfort zone, whatever that is, whether that's 12 feet or 18 feet, or when you're really good, it might be 33 or 36 feet. Just get it to that comfort zone. And I think if I could elaborate on a little bit of that same idea, there's a lot of times you may have a very straight shot that finishes a little left or a little right, and people always have the mentality of, well, I need to throw it down the tunnel, and then I need to, get it to finish right. And it's like, no, if you throw it dead straight even, which is tough enough, you throw it dead straight and leave yourself an 18-footer, you're fine. Just throw it straight, because otherwise you may put too much on it, turn it over, and then you find yourself in the woods. So too many people play to park a shot as opposed to just getting their comfort zone, and that would be my one quick tip on that.
Yeah, I love that.
We talked a little bit about, who you've been watching, what you've been watching, and a great question on the board was, is there a course and or an area, and I'll even go international with that, but is there a course or an area that you're really excited to get to either see or to play, compete on yourself? Do you worry about international travel or the best course you're going to find out at Maple Hill or wherever you might go? What are some of your thoughts about what courses you care about getting on?
Yeah, so I'm kind of have a bad memory of exactly. I've watched so many, so
Sure.
I'm having a bad memory of what courses are what. But from what I can gather, like on the East Coast side, you have a lot of those wooded kind of courses.
Yep.
And those are, I love those courses because I think it just requires a lot of technical shots.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I've seen a tournament, I believe, in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Beaver State Fling.
Yeah,
Yep.
Beaver State.
I think
at
that might
Milo.
have been it. Yep.
Yep.
And yeah, that like out there, that looks crazy too.
Majestic.
And I think I've seen some tournaments where it looks like the land was there and then they created a disc golf course. And then I've seen some tournaments where they created the disc golf course and they basically could do what they wanted with the land, if that makes sense. And the ones like that are insane with the island greens and all this other stuff. Like, holy cow. I don't think I've played a course yet that like a designer or someone came in and like kind of had free reign of making it a disc golf course.
Yeah, that's always tough because usually we're playing within parks, and we kind of have to, you have to abide by, well, you have this area and you can kind of do what you want with this area, but beware of X, Y, and Z. And it is very tough for us to actually be able to take a huge chunk of land and specifically create a disc golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you've probably experienced, and to go on that point, it's always been interesting to me. I work at a lot of park and rec and trade shows, and the comparison for us was a green in golf can run anywhere from $25 to $50 to $100,000 to build and to put together, from what I've been told. And you can put an entire disc golf course in a public park, for under 20 grand. And that's literally an entire 18-hole course as opposed to one green on one ball golf course. And so when you just put it in those terms, it's staggering how much more impact, a traditional golf course has than what we do. So I think that trend is shifting, though, which is great.
Yeah.
People are saying, yeah.
I was just going to say, too, I have seen some chatter between, like, free courses and paid courses. And I know, like, there's some backlash on getting the sport bigger and sponsors and stuff, and there's going to be a lot more paid courses if all that stuff kind of happens. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, I think there's always going to be public courses that you can play in the park. But I mean, I don't know if there is a course in Dallas like this, but I think it'd be dope to have a course where it's $10 to play, and you have people out there working on it constantly, making sure it's manicured and look good, and it's a course that was, basically took the land and made it a disc golf course. I don't know, maybe you guys know a course in Dallas like that, but I know there's a couple in the U.S. that I think Maple Hill was one of those.
Yeah, that's
one?
Yeah, that's family-owned property. That's a Christmas tree farm that then was converted into now one of the most beloved disc golf courses in the world. So there's a good example of where like you said, they were able to take land and really do whatever they wanted with it. And you find that a lot, like you're saying, with the pay-to-play style as opposed to most of your public courses. So, and Austin, and I know there's some other areas in Texas that do have a pay-to-play mentality. You know, if you look at any or frequently John Houck design courses, he's originally out of Texas. He's one of the more
Round Rock.
prolific course designers. Sela Ranch is a popular one that people are very familiar with that has that pay-to-play mentality. And you can tell he went out there and gave it a professional design, and it's truly an experience to be there, as it was rated, top 2 courses in the world for like a decade. So
I think it's great to have that diversity. You know, I think you're going to have some people that are going to shy away and never play those courses, but then you're going to have some people that will. And so giving options, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to name drop here. You've made a lot of connections with a lot of pro athletes, YouTube stars, and whoever. If you could go out and play around with somebody, maybe that hasn't played before, introduce somebody, who would you bring? Would it be a baseball player, a pitcher? Would it be a quarterback for a footballer? Someone that you particularly have some sort of contact with?
Or who you might think would be good at it or really enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the golfers have a huge advantage. I think it's kind of backwards, right? Because most people are more comfortable with the backhand when they first start than the forehand. But the forehand is a very similar movement to a golf swing. But yeah, I mean, I think, gosh, that is a good question.
You know, Bubba Watson plays, right? Have you heard that?
I have heard that. Yeah, okay. I have heard that. He'd be probably pretty fun to play with. I would say Tony Hawk would also be a cool person to do a round of golf with. He was super cool. And I mean, Shaun White's another guy that would be probably chill to do golf with. He'd probably be pretty good because he's good at literally everything. I'm going to have to think about that, though. That's a good question. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously, that's something that it's a lot easier for me to get someone to go out and play a couple holes with for a video than for them to play ball golf, which they literally might never be able to hit the ball, or ultimate frisbee, where it's like, what the heck are we going to be doing there? We're just doing trick shots and throwing the frisbee in a trash can. So I think the disc golf definitely opens up and makes it super easy, like we kind of already talked about, makes it super easy for anyone to kind of go out there and have fun for 3 or 4 holes.
I think
maybe they'll love it and they'll keep playing.
Aaron Rodgers has talked in the past about playing. I know he played when he was out in California, so he has at least he knows what discs are, and he's played. So I think of someone like him maybe as someone you could reach out to. Well, there's been a couple of other actual movie star celebrities that have played as well and have talked about it. So maybe.
That's sweet.
Maybe there'll be some collaborations that you'll be doing with them. Or you bring out brand new people.
Yeah, people that have no idea. I mean, obviously, we're going to have me and Ben are going to take on Paul and Simon at Ben's home course. That's a video that has to happen.
Yeah. And you're talking of Ben Askren for anyone that isn't somehow up to speed.
Ben's home course is within an hour of here, which is nice.
Oh, yeah, very cool.
Yeah, we're out of Milwaukee here, so Ben is Waukesha area, I believe, or at least that's
he's out in Heartland area, which is about actually 15 minutes from west of where I live. So and there's some old school ties even that I've had to Ben, and he played in a tournament I ran a number of years ago. Did you play the Zobel?
I did.
He's played in tournaments, and obviously his notoriety is continued. He every time he gets on TV, he it feels like he talks obviously about his MMA career, but he'd always sneak in disc golf into the conversation.
No, he doesn't sneak it in.
Okay.
He throws it in.
He throws it
flat
in.
out.
And disc golfers,
he loves it.
Yeah, which is awesome to see and to hear as well. On a personal side, you're married to Kelsey, correct?
Yep.
And you guys live down in Texas?
Yep.
And so whenever you're talking about traveling and all the gigs, athletically or otherwise, like you're on the move all the time. I think I just missed you in Vegas by 24 hours this last weekend, right? You went out there and did some...
I was just there, the last couple of days.
So always on the move. What is, dare I ask, outside of now practicing, what's like day-to-day for you? Could you ever summarize?
Today we woke up, we went on, we're currently training for a 5K.
Okay.
We just did a half marathon, but now we're trying to like run a 5K fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to help her PR on that. And honestly, that's great for disc golf too, because some of these tournaments are 3 days, 4 days, and you might think, oh, you're just walking around or whatnot, but it does take a strain on you. And if you're getting a little bit tired, so that kind of goes hand in hand, but that's kind of that's our like go-to time together is we'll have, 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long the run is, where we can just kind of chat and whatnot. Other than that, I'm going to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday from like 7:30 until about 10:30. So training. And then, after that, it's normally to the disc golf course or to the field to throw. And then when I get home at 5 or 6, it's emails and editing and whatever else I need to do. And then, Monday nights now, it's bachelor night. So we're doing that on Monday nights. And we kind of just hang out and stuff at night. And then, on the weekends, obviously, I'm a little bit more available to go and do stuff together. So, that's kind of.
Does your wife have any interest in playing? Is she seeing your new passion and kind of going like, oh, I could see doing that? She's athletic.
So I would say she has no interest in like playing in the sense of like competing. But we did have like a little, I was out, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Kurt Gibson and Chris Gibson and Nathan Sage, some old Florida Gators, ultimate Frisbee guys. So that's who we were chilling with out in Vegas with. And so we played a course every day out there, which was cool. And on the last day, all of our wives came out with us and we did a little competition with everyone. So they got involved and they loved it and stuff. So it was fun. It's the same thing with like ball golf. If we're out there doing it together, she enjoys it and loves it. But, she's not going to be going in the backyard practicing putting or anything anytime soon.
That is a perfect segue to the next question is, I'm sure you've noticed, or maybe you haven't, the huge discrepancy we have between males and females within disc golf. It's roughly 90% to 10% when it's all said and done, recreationally or competitively. Any idea? I mean, you're a fresh new perspective, which is why I'm asking. Any idea either what might cause that and or how could we maybe bridge that gap or shorten that gap? Any thoughts?
I think a lot of sports have that same issue. I mean, ultimate Frisbee had that same issue as well. I spent a lot of time talking to a lot of different people from, the advocates on trying to get the women's ultimate side the same as the men's ultimate side. And it's a really, really difficult thing. And when you don't have sponsorship money flowing in, it's really, really tough because all you can really go off of is the views, right? As far as like kind of growing the exposure and whatnot. And so I know that was one thing that Ultimate had a hard time doing is when they would go to an Ultimate tournament, the guys and girls were playing at the same time. And so now I think I don't even know if they're doing 1-for-1, but back in the day, they would show like 5 guys games and 1 female game, right? And now I think it's getting closer to 1-and-1, but I think that's something that everyone really struggles with is how do we get more females into the sport? And I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I know for me, like I can bring Kelsey out to the course. Like it's awesome because one of the courses a little bit south of where we live is where we actually take our dogs to the dog park. So there's going to be times where we'll take the dogs to the dog park, wear them out, and then, I'll be disc golfing, and then she can just kind of walk over and hang out with me disc golfing for a little bit and be throwing. But like, that's getting her out, but that's not really necessarily turning her into a disc golfer because she doesn't have an interest in it. So that's a really interesting question and one that I think a lot of people are struggling to answer. And I don't honestly I don't know. I mean, I think it might be, the Mia Hamm, the Serena Williams, that type of thing of the other sports, right? Like Tiger Woods got me interested in golf. I think it's like the athletes are the ones that really get you interested in the sport. So I think having a big name athlete like that, I think that obviously helps attract. So Yeah, I'm definitely looking to try to do stuff with female disc golfers as well, because I think that's huge. I think getting them the exposure like that, especially because I'm sure there's some characters, and like that's what we talked
Oh,
about,
yeah.
the personalities, right? And
Yeah.
and maybe they're not able to reach that audience. So, I'm 100% down doing videos with them and putting them into an audience to where they could be like, dude, that chick was super sick, and she's also way better at disc golf than me. I'm gonna go check her out, follow her, and see what she does. So I think that's one thing that I could definitely do. But do I have the answer? I don't. But I'm definitely open to ideas for sure.
Yeah, and I certainly realize that there's never going to probably be a 50-50 equal there, and I'm not suggesting that there has to be, but we are always wondering, is there something that we can truly do to help facilitate it? I've got 2 daughters, for instance, and you see so many of these amazing women-only tournaments, and women like Paige Pierce, the 5-time world champ.
Yeah.
And you watch her, and you watch a Katrina and a Sarah Hokum and a Jennifer Allen who throws 600 feet.
Who's the girl with the crazy hair? I just watched the tournament with her. I can't remember her name.
Paige Bjerkes, formerly now
Yes.
Paige Shue.
Paige Shue. Yep.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Yep. World champion of 2018.
Out of Emporia, Dynamic Disc sponsored. She yep, so she'll be
World champ.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
world champ, and one of the, like you said, some of the best hair in the sport.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that we can be doing, whether that's on the media side or just enthusiasts? I guess I'm tying this together to like how we said everyone's probably jumping on you and trying to work or facilitate or collaborate. What can media be doing to help foster all of this growth? Is there anything that?
Yeah, I think it's just storytelling, right? Like getting the stories out there that people want to hear about, and just the more information and the more people can actually kind of relate to the athletes and stuff. I think that's going to help people get more involved, not involved, but more connected to the sport, And
Okay.
so I think the coverage is definitely awesome. And, you look at all the other sports, they all obviously all have the live broadcast, but they also have all these other things. I mean, look at the UFC, for example. They have so much build up to a fight. It's insane the amount of media things that they have to a fight. And so that would be sweet. Like, has tournaments ever done that before, where they'll have like a press conference beforehand and
Yep.
like someone will sit down and talk for 15 minutes, and then the next guy will come and talk for 15 minutes? And
Yeah, I think back to
Ledgestone does that. They have a press conference usually before the event, and where they'll have a couple of the pros come up and talk. It's not a UFC style in your face type of talk,
of
but
course.
they will come in and address.
It'd be more like a PGA Tour style kind
Totally.
of thing of
Yeah.
just
Yep.
getting an idea
But-
of what the player thinks of the course and where their game's at and all that stuff. And I could be wrong too, but is there coverage of once someone wins, once Paul wins a world championship, he gets that quick little intro from, I guess, the tournament organizer, or someone comes and greets him at the basket and says, "World champion," and everyone cheers, and then he talks for a little bit. Is there something that goes on after that? Is there additional media at tournaments after that?
A little bit. Sometimes there's award ceremonies that happen, and then obviously after the fact, usually, let's say this happens on a Saturday or a Sunday. Tuesday, is Smashbox Day for everybody that wins. Hint, hint, everybody. A lot of people will come in and we'll do that type of talk, but most players these days are in charge of their own social media, their own type of media, because the media crews we have, slightly limited budget, depending on who you're working with, will have obligations to do. But I think there is a position, like you're saying, for more storytelling, for someone that maybe wants to sit and work with, hey, Paul, you just won. Let's sit down in the clubhouse and have a 25-minute talk or a 15-minute talk about what this means to you. Similar, I think of the Masters with the green jacket ceremony at the end. That's kind of some of the stuff I would like to see a little bit more of. But
sure,
it's
not gonna get the big numbers initially, right? There's not gonna be that many people tuning in, but what you're basically doing is you're getting those diehard fans that can't get enough. And that's something like for me right now, I would love that. I would love to get more insight on what this guy was thinking, and even talking to other people.
Yeah.
You know, talking to I can't remember who it was, but I think it might have been at the USD. I'm blanking on the number. Is it
USDGC? Yep.
It's tough to say. There was someone that like that on the men's side, that was absolutely insane what happened on those last couple holes with people just not being able to get the disc. I think it was 17. Was it 16 or 17?
17 is the island hole.
Yep.
People not being able to get the disc in there. Like this guy should have had like a 4-shot lead than this guy. And then, the 18th hole, like throwing your layup out of bounds, like all like crazy stuff happened. And I would love to have somewhere where I could get more to digest from the actual players of what just happened.
Yeah. No, no, you're exactly right.
Well, this is also coming from the guy who just said, he doesn't, after he has a bad round, he doesn't probably want to sit and hang out and talk.
Oh, no.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I can't sit down and have like I was talking more like the 2-hour commentary things about the round.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah. No, I'm down to do a 5-minute interview saying, holy crap, I just threw that disc out of bounds and it was the worst throw of my life. I think that's the stuff that you get. Like you get those little one-liners. You get a lot of things that you can tweet out. Like this person just said this. You get those little voice bites.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're growing into. And again, I'm just speaking more so from a live perspective of when we're the tournament is starting to wrap up and things are coming to a close. Frequently, if I'm on site, I'll be doing an interview with whoever was just crowned the champion. We get a conversation with them. But there might be opportunities to do even more than that, than just the winner that we typically get. It might be finessing a few of the other players to have conversations with them. And then, like we were saying, it's not really just even a plug for us. There's kind of a little bit of now a media circuit that players actually expect to go on. You win on a weekend, especially a big event, we almost expect for them to join us on Tuesday night. Of course, some can't, but we appreciate that they come join us on Tuesday night to have a conversation just like this, talking about what happened throughout the weekend. And then there's now 2 or 3 other podcasts, and things that have all evolved. Whereas when we started 5 years ago, none of that existed. Yeah. And so I think we're on the right track, but there's always room for more.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, it's growing and there's a lot of people that are passionate like you guys that are willing to put in the work that needs to be done right now that, you might not see the results financially that you would like to see currently, but you're seeing the big picture. Yeah. That's the important thing is you're seeing down the road that this is really helping. And again, like all it really takes is for a couple people that, contracts to say, hey, after a tournament, if a media person comes up to you, or not necessarily any media person, but like
credentialed,
the head media of the tournament, like, just require them to talk. Just like literally NFL has it like that. The NBA has it like that. The PGA Tour has it like that. Because I'm sure there are some guys on tour that just don't want to, right? And they're just no, I'm good.
Yeah, you can find their skid marks in the parking lot because they've peeled out or they've done, they're out of there. And
those are the interviews that people want to hear.
Yes,
the guy that's flooring it out of the parking lot. I want to know what he's thinking.
I want to stick the mic in the window as he's peeling out. That's right.
No, and we're growing and evolving into those exact things as you said. There is a clause with the PDGA right now that the Disc Golf Pro Tour also adheres to, talking about how players need to be accessible up into a certain point before a tournament round, and then a certain hour time frame after a tournament round. Now, of course, some adhere to that better than others right now, as I was just mentioning, but we're growing, and I think we're all getting into those stages for sure. And you're
making the right steps, which is the important thing.
It's very exciting for sure.
So, is there anything you want to share with the disc golf community right now? We're wrapping this up. You've been a great guest, a great interview. What do you have to say to almost 1,000 people that are practically watching right now.
Give us the exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And like I said earlier, the passion that I had in Ultimate is what I'm feeling right now with disc golf. And that's not something that is going to go away anytime soon. And I'm definitely someone that, when I want something, I'm willing to put the work in. And that's the most important thing with this sport is you're not just going to get good overnight. It's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, but I love this sport and I enjoy it a lot. And I think there are some incredible people. I mean, just the conversations I've had with the top players in the sport, they have all been nothing but nice. And, like the goal is to eventually at some point get to where I'm battling with those guys, and that's the kind of the cool thing about this that's different than Ultimate is if I'm playing you in Ultimate, I'm trying to beat you, right? I'm trying to sky you. I'm trying to hand block you. I'm trying to lay out D you. I'm trying to beat you. In disc golf, yeah, you're trying to beat the people in the field, but at the end of the day, you're trying to beat the course, and it's a battle against you versus the course. Whoever I'm playing with should have no impact on my game whatsoever. And so it's that mental thing of like, can I perform? Can I pull off the shots I know I can do it? And can I be good enough to be the best this weekend? And that's super exciting. It really is. And I think there's just so much opportunity, obviously from the playing side of it, but just also getting me excited about making videos again. Like if you go and you look on my YouTube channel, I am not one to post videos because I have a lot of subscribers and post videos because I know they're going to get views and make money. I think I've posted, oh man, I don't know, a couple dozen videos over the last couple years, which is super low. Because, if I'm not passionate about something and it got weird posting Ultimate Frisbee videos when I'm not even being able to play. So now it's like my mind just already spinning on all the different type of videos I want to post and film. And the beautiful thing is not only is it going to be hopefully good content that people enjoy and also bring in some players that might never have known about disc golf, but also it's going to improve my game. Like I got freaking good at throwing a Frisbee by doing those trick shots because heck, like it takes a lot of skill to throw the Frisbee and make it do some of those things. And spoiler alert, it wasn't the first try, so I got a lot of practice at it. And so it's the same thing in disc golf. If I go out and try to do a video where I'm trying to ace every hole, or try to do a video where I'm only playing with putters, or trying to do whatever, all these things, that's going to basically make me a better disc golfer. So that's awesome. I'm excited about that. And yeah, I'm just really excited about just what 2020 has in store, because it's been a really, really, really long time since I've got this fire back in me. And like I said before, like you don't want to go over to our house on game night and not come in thinking it's going to be intense, because we don't mess around. And so having that competitive vibe, and now I can actually put it towards a sport versus it being kind of my wife's going to love it because heck, I was turning everything into a competition. So now I can at least put it all into disc golf. But yeah, I'm super excited. Can't wait to meet everyone. And yeah, I just think 2020 is going to be an awesome year.
Awesome. Well, we've got to say thank you for your enthusiasm. It's of course we see the best, week in and week out, and it's going to be awesome to watch you grow and climb, and to have this Frisbee background and then just overall competitive background, to watch you hopefully grow and thrive and improve. Everyone's going to be watching it on your channel or online or wherever it is. They're going to be watching you week in and week out, and we're really excited about it as well from a growth perspective and just a media perspective. It's all very exciting for us. So
appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we're going to cut you loose. If it hasn't been known already, Smashbox is not usually short on time. Our podcast can run anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 hours, whatever it might be. But
I don't think we've ever hit 6, but
we can.
Give us time.
But it's moments like these where we can get access to people like you and all of our top players that we love to put out there for the world. And believe me, the disc golf world loves everything that you've just given them, because now everybody knows you that much better. So we thank you for your time, and we appreciate it. And the only thing we ask for is maybe a check-in a couple more times later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll talk to you guys Tuesday after a tournament, huh?
That's what we're looking for.
You're
That's
catching
right.
on.
Now you got it.
You got it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Brodie Smith. We're going to let him go tonight, but looking forward to your progress, looking forward to your sponsorship announcements, and looking forward to hearing all about that first tournament you're going to play in. I'd like to be there, wherever it is. I'd like a heads up, because I want to be there in some media capacity, covering it myself. So looking forward to it.
You can get those little bites at the end about having him throw out of bounds.
Yeah, exactly. He set himself
There
up.
you go.
All right, pal. Have a good night. Take care.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Thanks,
Thanks, Brodie.
Bye.
See ya. All right, and again,
Thanks to Brodie Smith for joining the show. What a great interview. I'm going to be the first to say I am impressed with his passion. That was obviously one of the things I had personally, I wouldn't say worried about.
Questioned.
But I questioned was how serious was he taking it? And it sounds like he's saying all the right things.
He's already better than you.
He's probably close. Right now at this exact minute, maybe, because I haven't played in a while. And it's really snowy outside.
He caught those 20 years up pretty quickly.
That's right. He caught those 20 years up. And I think that it sounds like he is going to take this seriously. And now, I don't necessarily know about his thought process about being able to compete with those guys before he plays a tournament, but it'll be fun to watch, because as we know, Paul, Simon, Ricky, all those top guys have honed their skills for many, many years. I'm hoping that we see him come out and he, probably Robert McCall here said like a 960, 970 rating, somewhere around there. It very well could be.
Okay. Well, exactly. As we wrapped up last week and we're talking about him and we were postulating on what his first event will be, but also, where we're going to see him throw in terms of his rating and what that might be at the end of the year. I don't think he's particularly worried about the exact numbers, but it's just an interesting approach that he really feels like he wants to get dialed in before he steps on the course. And obviously, I think that's smart. You want to be prepared. The question is, when will that magic moment really hit for him where he's like, okay, I'm confident that I can step in and compete now? And then how will that align with the scoreboard? That's clearly the question. When he feels like that, he's practiced Brazos East course, 15 rounds, and he says, all right, I'm going to go play my first sanctioned event there, after Waco's come and gone, but I'm going to still play that course. And he's, thinking, okay, I'm on track to shoot 6 under. That's what I confidently, I've got dialed in. And then he gets out there. How far off the mark does that 6 under come? Maybe he shoots 8 under. Maybe he shoots 6 over. I'm excited to hear how that first tournament experience is. Not even just from the scores, but from the emotions. That's going to be exciting.
It will be interesting. But the only numbers right now that I really care about are my Patreon numbers. Patreon.com
greedy son of a gun.
/SmashBoxxTV. If you like this interview, if you enjoy the things that we do this for free, but if you would like to toss us a little bit of cash for what we do, you can go to patreon.com /SmashBoxxTV, and $1 a month gets you into a weekly drawing for whatever prize we're giving away. And above that, it's all out on the patreon.com website, patreon.com /SmashBoxxTV, and you can join the t-shirts for this quarter's clothing supporter level. They were sent to Miles at Paragon just the other day, and he's going to very quickly send me a proof, which then I will probably just approve and send it out. It's going to be a baseball style tee this time.
Ooh.
So just something a little different. And I'm not.
In case somebody wants to go play softball in it.
In case somebody wants to go play, pick up a pickup game of their local softball, just walk.
And it's baseball
just like
season. I love your logic there. It's baseball season.
By the time they get it, it'll be spring training. I'm just kidding. No, that's in March. You'll get it before then. I promise. It would have been smarter to do it in March.
Or done a basketball jersey.
Jerseys are expensive.
I think that would be hilarious, though.
Just the Smashbox basketball. Mo will be the only one who wears that,
Yes.
because we know that Mo, formerly of Central Coast, now is my segue to the DGPT. Mo loves the very loud shirts, and he's a huge basketball fan. So we do want to give a shout out and congratulations to Mo on getting the DGPT media coordinator, media manager. I'm not exactly sure what the promotion is or title is, but he has to deal with us.
Media God and Guru. We'll call
Media
him.
God and Guru. The other thing I want to do right now is going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to the 2019 year in review, the entire year right now. It's going to be the longest podcast we've ever done. It's
19 hours.
19 hours. No, Disc Golf Nerd. Disc Golf Nerd sends us his reviews every couple months, and he created a year in review for us. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to show this. We'll be right back after a word from Disc Golf Nerd. Thank you.
What's up, Smashy? So with 2019 coming to a close, I thought it might be fun to go back and look at 3 of my favorite discs that were released in 2019. Number 3, the Prodigy MX3. It's a really fantastic mid-range. It's got that classic beaded feel. It holds lines extremely well, but it's stable enough that you can throw it hard and get a straight flight with some fade at the end of it. Available in both baseline and more premium plastics, so you can get some that will break in much faster for those hyzer flip to turnover mid-ranges, and also you can have a nice fresh premium plastic one that will hold its flight characteristics for a long period of time and fly nice and stable. I think the Prodigy MX3 is a really great addition to the lineup and has been a very popular disc since its release. Looking back on 2019, it's really hard to dispute the amazing impact that Paul Macbeth has had on Discraft. Huge sales, great plastic. I've seen a ton of these discs out there on the course this year, and for me, the best one out of the lot is the Luna. The Luna is pretty flat. It's got an extremely rounded, comfortable edge, incredibly similar to the Discraft Roach. It comes in a very firm plastic and also some special edition premium plastics as well. I had a fantastic time testing the Luna. It's extremely point and shoot. Great disc. One of my principal testers here on the channel, Andy, absolutely loves this disc and is throwing them whenever possible and also putting with them inside the circle. So the Luna, for me, definitely the number 2 disc of the year. And finally, my number 1 disc of the year has to be the only one that's made my bag, and that is the Discmania Link. The Link is designed and produced by Latitude 64. It has a feel very similar in the Exo Soft plastic to a Latitude Medium plastic, also available in the Exo Hard plastic. This is a really phenomenal putter. It's got that classic beaded feel in the hand, coupled with an extremely rounded outer rim. So it's just a really comfortable disc, has a perfectly flat top, and it holds any release angle all the way. I absolutely love this thing off the tee because it's just point and shoot. I put it on a hyzer, it stays on it. I throw it flat, it flies flat, and it'll hold a turnover as well, and every little nuance in between. I'm excited to see what this disc will do once I break it in, but I'm definitely going to try to keep a fresh one in the bag at all times because right out of the box, it holds any line and is extremely accurate and controllable off the tee. Definitely can be used inside the circle, not my personal preference, but off the tee, I can't get enough of throwing the Link, and it's definitely my favorite disc of 2019. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to all you guys for your continued support. Thanks to Smashbox for having me be part of the show. Have a great holiday season. Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Again, thank you to Disc Golf Nerd as a tremendous contributor here to our show. Clearly, Johnny V and I can't handle this on our own. We need to bring in backup and additional support, and we very much appreciate all the reviews and then, of course, the year in review. And not to take anything away from Disc Golf Nerd, who's been a regular contributor, Ace Run Productions, who graciously supports us financially always in the super chat. Huge shout out to them.
Thank you, Ace Run.
They said they would also love to put together an occasional segment, and I think in the after show we're going to have a few, maybe a little bonus action tonight. One,
What?
we're going to have a segment from Ace Run Productions, so they're likely in the future not necessarily run on the same nights, and we'll stagger them, but we want to get one out tonight so everyone can see what they're working on.
And tonight is one of our bigger viewer nights because we have Brodie on, so it's great to give these guys that extra little bump.
And then secondly, also in news, I referenced him earlier, and you may have seen it just before the show started. We're going to welcome Adam Hammis. He's going to be our after show headliner. And I know we don't do that too often, but it's a special night. So Adam Hammis is going to join us as we wrap things up here soon for our regular show. He's going to come in for the after show. So it sounds like we got a couple extra bonus features and a little extra action tonight before we close things out. So within our regular show, you just touched on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Again, congratulations to Mo. Very excited. We're just 7 weeks away from the Pro Tour kicking off. Of course, the National Tour is going to be a few weeks after that this year, almost a full month after that. So we're seeing those ramp up. And then this last weekend, as I just mentioned a moment ago, the Shelley Sharp Memorial presented by Spinners on the Green. First A tier in the books on the pro side. I believe Mike Barnett was running an A/B tier as well over in Florida. So we saw a few of the bigger events this year already get kicked off. People are ramping up. They're getting excited. We keep hearing sponsor conversation. I know we saw a lot of the Innova Star and Champion team continue to hit on social media in the last few days. I believe someone like Cameron Messerschmidt the other day just mentioned that he's going to have a sponsorship announcement. I think I saw on the board that Jordan Castro might have a sponsorship announcement coming up. So there's a few final moves and shakes that are going on. Brodie Smith is going to have a sponsorship announcement. But it's going to be great as here we are at the beginning of 2020, and people are getting really excited. I'll save any Shelley Sharp conversation for Adam here in our after show, so I won't go into that right now, but we'll definitely get him on and be able to talk about that. The big conversation that we will touch on is the amount of mandatories that were out there, and then another part of that conversation was some raised baskets, and those were two of the major course components. And I also got a few words from first and second place winner. First place winner and runner-up.
Wow, so someone at first and second place?
Bravo. Jen Allen did great. She gets first and second. No, Jen Allen gave me some great feedback to relay onto the world, along with Callie McMorran, two women that we often see out there competing, and they'll give us their take on the course that we're going to see as the Pro Tour kicks off. Is there anything else in the wide world of disc golf that's worth having a quick conversation about here before we close out the regular show?
I don't think there is. I think we've covered most of everything. We're still kind of in that quiet period. Not a lot of announcements happening. There's a player rating update that went out today, published on January 14th. So
to follow that, I did notice, I think it was today I happened to click on Paige Pierce's rating to see that she has plummeted to 976, coming off that 979.
She's going to have a chip on her shoulder now. Something to prove in 2020.
But I did see that her and Nate Perkins, and I feel like a few other individuals, at least that's what I saw, were en route and starting to head over to the Southeast Asia area. People are making their way over to Thailand. This last weekend, I think there was the Saigon Sizzler, or the Sizzler at Saigon. Huge shout out to everyone over there. I know we've talked about that entire Southeast Asia tour, which is going to continue to grow and be a thing. Very excited to see that unfold over the next few weeks, including a return to Koh Samui. I'm super excited about that. So travels and those plans are all in the works for some of our competitors, which is great to see. All right. Well, I think if you don't have anything else pressing right now that's part of the regular show, I think it's time to end it on a really high note. We had a great night for the regular show. We thank you guys for joining us. Stay tuned. Of course, we're going to have the after show, but I want to just echo a few thoughts about how great it was to have Brodie, to get this fresh, new perspective of someone that has dabbled in other things and been very successful. I don't want to downgrade his dabbling, but he's, been in a number of other really competitive arenas, and to see him and hear him talk about that fire that's lit under him right now, it could mean really big things. Yeah, it definitely could. I'm really excited to see how he takes to the game. Yeah, and how others continue to take to the game. As we're going to find this, there may be some of this newfound media and excitement and buzz that's going on around what he's bringing to the sport, and heck, to see a collaboration with him and I'll say a Bubba Watson or whomever would also be very cool to possibly see some of that unfold. And if there's any way we can help at Smashbox, or I can help personally, whatever it might be, hopefully he knows and understands we'll be ready to help in any capacity needed. Do you want to guess where he's going for sponsorship?
I have to guess Discraft. That seems like the low-hanging fruit. But to be honest, I have no idea. It just seems like the relationship with Paul. I feel like I'm gonna hurt some feelings here. I feel like Discmania just doesn't fit for him. I don't necessarily think that Discmania is, I don't want to say a big enough company, but it doesn't seem to have the weight behind it that an Innova or a Discraft would have, which is why I feel like Discraft has probably more resources than most to be able to collaborate with Brodie. I feel like it's going to be a Discraft or an Innova. And I was thinking, if it's Innova, I hope he puts a Sonic in his bag. That is...
But yeah, possibly, depending on, keeping with that, the ultimate Ultra Star, kind of mentality. What really struck a chord for me was, and what you're saying, I totally understand. Striking a chord for me, though, is we've seen such a media focus out of Dynamic. And when you sit someone down and you just say, okay, let's talk disc golf media.
It's Dynamic. They have the best media game in our sport. Hands down, period. No questions about it. It's to the point where some people are almost offended at how good it is, that there's a backlash against the media. It's like, you put out so much good stuff and so much stuff in general. Hey, yo, guys, back off. There's only so many physics of flight I can understand. I'm not a physics major here, but that makes sense in that aspect. I don't know.
And what will financially, how much of it will be a financial decision? I'm guessing not much. I don't think that's his concern. I think it might be some of those other, those other things that will weigh in more heavily than, a contract or dare I say guaranteed money or anything of that nature. And it's funny to think this guy hasn't played a tournament and people are fighting over who to sponsor him. Like, just think about that for a moment.
I don't want to be insulting.
Again.
Which I always say before I'm going to insult somebody.
Of course.
But they're not sponsoring him for his play. Period.
Yeah, but he would like to be.
Of course he would like to be, but he's realistic. He's a very smart guy. He's attaching his name to an audience. Guess what? You have the largest audience in disc golf right now. You have you came in and stomped on Jomez's numbers. Everyone was super happy. Wow, Jomez has 150 to 200,000, subscribers. Awesome. Brodie just crushed them. And crushes everybody, not just them. They just were the top. A manufacturer is coming in more or less to say, yes, please, we would love those numbers. If you're going to be promoting our product, that makes a ton of sense for every manufacturer. And I'm sure, as he said, every manufacturer has probably reached out, as they should.
Oh, I believe they have.
The manufacturer that he picks should see a bump in sales over the next, we'll say, 2 years. They should.
I'm just a little offended that all you do is you look at him as a number. I'm just, how dare you objectify him in that way?
I know, but
all right. Give him his clout number. You remember that app?
Oh, God, clout. Yes.
All right. That's a good place to end it. So I want to say again, Ace Run Productions and Adam Hammis will be heading up our after show, so stay tuned. So for Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, and that Brodie Smith frisbee throwing disc golf convert fella, it's been an awesome time interviewing him. Thank you so much again, Brodie, for joining us. Looking forward to more updates and conversations in the future as you grow and progress through this amazing journey that is disc golf. This has been Smashbox TV Podcast episode 280. Stay tuned for the after show. We'll have a headliner in Adam Hammis, and, of course, we'll have our Smashbox TV weekly giveaway via our Patreon account. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 280
After Show!
Here we are, coming in hot. What a fun time!
I haven't seen you wear pink in a while. Like I mean that I've seen pink stripes, but usually those are fine. That is out and out pink.
I have a pink plaid.
Yeah.
Is that a oxy? Is that a
No, I mean
contradiction?
Kind of, because it's plaid. Well, it depends. Plaid is traditionally, if you want to count it as a.
Is it a color or a pattern?
Pattern. There was a whole.
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
CBS Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I religiously watch it because I'm 100 years old.
Yep.
Every Sunday morning, we wake up, family, turn it on. They had an entire segment a couple months ago on plaid versus tartar versus like specific styles.
Styles or patterns? You're already throwing a curveball for me.
It's
Somebody tell me, is plaid? Do I have to Google this?
You might
Is
have
this
to.
like
Either
Googling?
way.
Is hot dog a sandwich? Is chili a soup? Is plaid? I don't know. A pattern. I feel like it's a pattern, not just a color.
tartan.
Tartan? That's the pronunciation.
That's like an official.
Is a pattern consisting of multiple colored, crisscrossed, horizontal, and vertical bands. The pattern of stripes running vertically is duplicated exactly on the horizontal axis. So
Yeah, it's a very specific style. Like that particular.
tartan versus plaid versus check. All right, we do not have time to get into all of this, folks. But
you can catch
anyway,
us on our Patreon only pattern show later this week, where we discuss tartan versus plaid versus check versus stripes versus.
This is my official throwback to the amazing time I had in
I was gonna
Croatia.
say to like 2008 when pink was really popular.
No, it was popular when I wore it at the Croatia
I'm just
Drava Forester
teasing.
Pink Party. That's when pink, sequin, and or pink, sparkles, and black party. It was. I own
agree.
that.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
I'm glad to wear it. So leave me alone, jerk. All right. When Adam Hammis is ready, all he has to do is call in via our Skype number, which I think he said he set up. And then we will welcome him to the show so we can actually talk disc golf and not talk about patterns of clothing.
That's weird that we would talk about disc golf in our after show.
It
but
kind of is. Patrick says I need some collar. That's the only thing I don't like about this shirt. I feel like it all of a sudden was
like
just
you don't have the
no
the plastic
those are
collars?
called collar stays.
Like these.
I didn't know
this
that was the
plastic
term.
one?
But yeah, I noticed. I've only worn it a couple times, and it was a really cheap shirt. It didn't seem like it was sitting properly. What do I know?
Not a heck of a lot, Terry.
All right, I hear him at least off in a distance. As soon as we get some video from him, it looks like he might have to click a little camera button to give us his video feed. We can hear him, and it looks like now we can kind of see him
There we
off
go.
in the distance. And the
Yep.
lighting appears to look pretty good for him.
Yeah, that's pretty good right there, I would say.
And just if he wants to flip his camera on his side, his phone, it'll auto fix in his. Just rotate it 90 degrees. and it will switch.
Bingo.
Like we're professionals here. I love it. All right, and with that being said, we can now welcome to the show, coming in from our Disc Baron Digital Green Room, our first A-tier champion of 2020, Adam Hammes. Hi, Adam.
How's it going, guys?
It's going great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Let me center up this thing.
That's all right.
Yeah, no worries.
No, you're all right. How do you feel not being? I'm assuming you're not in Wisconsin right now, seeing as how you just won. I mean, he could have come back. I don't know.
Oh,
but,
I know things, but we'll let him
know
answer.
you do. How do you feel not being in a winter? I mean, is it nice?
It's amazing. I mean, I don't miss the snow whatsoever. Arizona's been absolutely wonderful. It's 70 degrees every day. It's sunny, and it never really rains. And you can count on playing consistent disc golf every single day. And it's really helped my game, I think. And I've been really been focused down here.
It was not quite a direct quote, but you guys were walking down hole 10 on Sunday in the lead card, which featured yourself, Josh Anthon, Drew Gibson, and Terry Roethlisberger. Terry, formerly from Minnesota. And I believe you said something to the effect of, I never want to spend another winter in Wisconsin again. This is where it's at. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think we both mentioned something like that, how we just don't ever want to go back there in the winter because it's too nice here.
Well, and for everyone that doesn't know, you're not only from Wisconsin, you're from northern Wisconsin, and you're a full 5-ish hours north of where we are. So that's an extra, 10 to 20 to 30 inches of snow than maybe we even sometimes get down here.
Yeah, we have like 3 feet, I think, where I'm from right now, and I went home for Christmas, and it was depressing. But
so, what are your family members? You're still pretty young. What are you, 19 or 20?
I'm 20. I'm almost 21.
Okay. What are your family members? What are those conversations about you being you're 20, you're out in Arizona for the winters, and then you're on the road all year long, pretty much. What are those conversations? Where does the support come from, and what are some of the things they say to you now?
So yeah, at first they were like, they were just like weird about it, and like when I first started touring like big across the Midwest, it was definitely a talk. Like, okay, you're on your own now. Like, you have to you have to figure everything else on your own. And then we'll be here to like help you and all that stuff. And then finally, when I like decided to full tour, they definitely they accepted it, and I knew I could go like make this like my career, my life, or whatever I want to take it. And now that it's happening, they definitely miss me, and I miss them, and I don't get to see them very often, but we handle it pretty well, and I stay in contact. So stuff like that.
After a win like this weekend, how soon is it before you call mom or dad or check in back home? Is that 5 minutes after the putt goes in, or is that, that night or the next morning?
Yeah, I usually call them pretty soon after the round. I think I called both my parents within maybe 20 minutes after I won the tournament, just to let them know, and they were super excited for me. And then, yeah.
What a way to kick off the year. I mean, you're in Arizona, and then we have this A-tier. It's been a long-running event. It's kind of shifted time frames, but a long-running event on a pretty challenging course. Talk a little bit about what it feels like to take down the win.
Well, it's the second year in a row we started out with a big win. Last year, didn't you win the Wintertime Open?
Yeah, Wintertime,
Yep.
It definitely feels great. I mean, I left off last season super strong, and I wanted to just pretty much focus this off season and come in and just kind of set a statement, be like, hey, I'm here this year. Like, I'm ready for this. And I prepared pretty well this past week before the tournament. I felt confident on the course, and went out the first round. It was kind of shaky, and I got things rolling finally, and I got back into that competing disc golf mental thing you have to be into to compete. I know we all forget how to do it early in the off season. It just takes us maybe a warm up tournament to get those thoughts and those nerves out of the way. And I found that pretty quick throughout in the tournament, and I think that is what led me to be able to do so well in that in Shelley Sharp.
Now, you're staying at the Borellas, is that correct?
Yep.
And so what's like day to day for you guys? Are you and Anthony out playing all the time? Are you just playing? What's like a daily routine for you right now? Is or maybe for the last few weeks, what has that been?
the first couple months I was down here, I didn't play too much. I probably played a couple times a week, just staying fresh, just staying out on the course. Anthony's been in school at ASU, so
Okay,
I haven't been able to play with him too much. So I've just kind of been playing by myself, and that gets boring at times. So I usually want to go play a practice round or want to go play. I try to find someone to play with. And then over Christmas break, he came home for a month, and we grinded hard and we played a whole bunch of disc every day. We woke up, played Vista and wherever we could play, and I think that really helped. And then now he's back in school. School started for him today, and Terry and Jordan, who are like two of my best friends, they're down here getting prepared for 2020. They're staying at one of their buddies in Phoenix for the rest of the off season. So now I get to play with them every day, and it's working out.
Yeah, and it was great to see them as they were on, obviously, Terry playing on the lead card, Jordan walking along. I know this is a little random. Do you know why Jordan didn't play?
I don't know if he's too ready with his new discs that he recently signed with, and I think he just wants to get super comfortable with his molds and just kind of come out to a big one and just be focused and ready. I don't know if he was, because he got to Arizona maybe a week before Shelley, and I don't think he was ready to play yet.
Okay.
I don't think he's even thrown his new discs in like warm weather. I think he's been back in Minnesota just trying to chuck them around and see what's working for him and stuff like that.
Sounds like we're going to have a Jordan Castro exclusive relatively soon.
Oh, yeah. So I know this is going to almost sound funny, but you're 20, and now a friend of yours, a fellow Midwesterner in Terry Roethlisberger, is about to go on tour full time. As a 20-year-old, what advice do you have for someone a little bit older in Terry? What advice do you have for him as he's about to embark on a full year tour, full time?
I mean, everyone's first year touring is like super exciting. You're just super ready to compete. My best advice is take it slow. Don't like get too hard on yourself. Just because you'll get burnt out really quick. You'll be hit Idlewild, and like around that time, you're like, oh, this is hard. Like you just get burnt out on tour. So the biggest thing is like take it easy. Make sure you're rested. Don't force practice rounds when you need a rest day. Stuff like that. Just stay like mentally strong and be prepared for each event without trying to get burnt out. It's a really hard thing to do, but
well, I mean, I think a lot of people think, well, touring's not so bad. You like get up and play disc golf every day. And it's like, well,
yeah,
there's a lot of usually just actual miles to cover to get from one event to the next. There's learning the course. There might be clinics. There might be other media obligations. And then there's the practice. I mean, what would you say was specifically the hardest thing for you to really adapt to?
Enough practice time on each course. Like there was some turns I felt like I just didn't have all the shots, wasn't completely ready because maybe I had to drive 15 hours to that tournament and I only had 2 days of practice and the tournament started on Thursday, and like stuff like that. Now that's second year, I think I've seen all the courses. I know I've been on all of them, and I think it's more of an advantage. I can kind of like lay back and be like, all right, I know what I need to do on this hole. I don't need to get too hard on myself. And
yeah, and that was going to be my next question is, when you think about the people that have been on the road for 2 or 4 or 8 years, like they get to Milo, as gorgeous and majestic as it is, they don't need to learn everything from scratch. Like it's kind of a routine now, and I think you're going to experience maybe some of those advantages. You're coming back to some of these places for a second or third time. You're like, oh yeah, I've been here. I don't need to.
Yeah. And even like going back to a place that I haven't played well at and like have a new shot at it and knowing what to expect that the course is going to do to me, and like just I think that's going to be a huge help for this season. I know I went to Beaver State playing super excited, loved the courses, loved the area, loved how beautiful it was, and then I played horrible.
Sure.
And they're like it kind of sucked, but
that much stronger for this upcoming year. Now, speaking of this upcoming year, it'll be your second year with Discraft, as you're part of we'll say a large crew that found new sponsorship in Discraft last year. So you've had a full season under your belt. Are you 100% confident in all of your discs and all of your shots with that? And is there anything new you're trying?
I'm 100% confident with Discraft molds. All the discs in my bag, I know what they're doing. 100% confident in every single disc. I wouldn't say I'm 100% confident with every single shot, but I'm definitely extremely comfortable with Discraft. The company's been absolutely amazing to me, and yeah, it really helps out there when you feel comfortable with your company and you have nothing to worry about and stuff like that.
What would you say is two-part here? Biggest strength and your biggest weakness right now. What are the things you're most comfortable with, and the thing that you know you have to work on next?
I would say my strength is still putting. I've been putting great for a while. And then my weakness, in the Shelly, I think something that I don't really lean to is throwing putters and mid ranges in like technical situations under pressure. I think I'd love to get better, and I would like to throw like a Luna like Paul, obviously, because he makes it look way too easy. And I go out there and I throw it, and I can throw it well sometimes, but not as consistent as him. Yeah, I just pretty much want to definitely get better with throwing putters and mids, like technical shots.
And I'll go the exact opposite to follow that up is when you're talking, just raw distance, and if you have the room, to really unload a full drive, what kind of distance are we talking when you're throwing just raw power?
475, 500. I think anything over 500 is a really good throw for me.
Okay. But you don't have that opportunity.
475 consistently.
Is it fair to say someplace like a Memorial, even, I guess maybe at Vegas you do, but at a lot of these courses you may not have some of those opportunities to just full power, with not a lot to contend with. I mean, maybe at Vegas, but you're on the fence about Vegas, or no?
I will not be at Vegas.
Okay.
I just decided not to put that one in the schedule this year. I didn't play too hot there last year, and since it wasn't NT this year, I said I'd rather focus on wintertime, try to defend that, and then come back down to Memorial. I'm only playing, I think, 22 events this year, trying to hit all the NTs, Pro Tours, and then I'm going to Europe. So I'm just trying to focus on the big ones and kind of where it matters, really.
Okay, so let's talk about Europe a little bit. I feel like that's always a graduation process. You have your competitors that feel like they need to be there and maybe are financially stable to get there, and then there's usually like that second fold of competitors that are like, I really want to go. What's your trip look like? Let's ask that, and then how did it come about?
The actual trip isn't 100% planned yet. Plane tickets aren't bought yet. We have just been I've just been talking with the person I'm going with about it, and we're definitely planning on it. We just haven't really like set anything in place of how it's all going to go down yet. So it's kind of hard to answer that question right now.
Okay. Let's talk about touring this year. You've mentioned, being on the road with AB. You've also mentioned someone like Jordan and Terry. What does your tour situation look like? Is it you in a car? Is it you in an RV? You and 10 other people? What does it look like?
So this hasn't been released yet, but I will be touring with Jeff Corns in the new Discraft RV. So they're taking his RV that was wrapped Discmania. We're going to be wrapping it Discraft, and I'll be on the road with Jeff all season.
Smashbox exclusive.
That's pretty awesome. That's
wow.
A fun. What type of obligations is that going to come with?
You just get to sleep and eat?
Yeah, I mean, I get to sleep in the RV, and I don't really have to drive.
Sweet.
Which is really nice.
Okay. Jeff was just announced in the last few days, I feel like, as taking on a new role with Discraft. Did you guys have some of those conversations when he was maybe either negotiating or hemming or hawing or whatever he was doing? Did you guys have some good talks about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so last year around the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale in Hall of Fame, Jeff and I really got into contact, became really good friends, and I think around that time people were talking like, hey, you should come to Discraft, blah, 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 and we finally, he ended up doing it, and I said, well, if you ever go Discraft, I would love to travel with you and be in the RV, and he goes, oh, absolutely, that sounds like a great idea, and it all worked out, and it sounds like that's going to be the plan.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, one minor point of clarification, and this is something I don't think I knew for quite a while, and some others knew. I was always under the impression that Jeff was, in fact, a Discmania employee of sorts, and that really wasn't the case. He was kind of a vendor and a promoter and ambassador of the team and of the brand, but he was not an exclusive Discmania employee per se. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of his position. I think it was a mobile store.
Okay.
So he vended at every tournament, and then I know he hauled Eagle around, so maybe hired for that reason as well. And then obviously has the big RV.
Well, that's
So
that should be really exciting.
Yeah.
Is there anything? I guess you kind of just touched on it. I was going to say, is there anything abnormal, out of the ordinary? But your NTs, Pro Tours, and then Europe, huh? Is that pretty much what's on the schedule? Anything that might shock us or surprise us?
No, it's kind of boring this year. I'm pretty much just playing all the big ones.
Well, I mean, that's where you need to be, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't make it back to Silver Cup, which is my favorite A tier in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
That's the time of Europe, so that kind of bums me out missing that. I've missed that tournament in like 6 or 7 years, and then a couple local Midwest tournaments that I've been to a lot. I just won't be able to make back to this year because with the RV, convenience is everything.
Mhm.
It's hard to take that thing absolutely everywhere. We got to just make the best tour route that makes sense with such a big rig on the road.
Will you, I guess, following Johnny's question about obligations, will you see yourself helping run or be part of any kind of two-disc challenges or clinics or anything of that
Ace
nature?
runs.
Ace runs, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so Jeff has big plans of hopefully running some discraft events. I'm not exactly sure what, maybe 2-disc, I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to be hopefully running several of those this year because we're going to have a lot of downtime. So I'm not playing 30 tournaments. We'll have plenty of weekends where we can run a tournament in a small town or a little event. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what he has in mind. We've been talking and we haven't really come up with many ideas. I know he's working on that a little bit more than I am.
Sure.
But yeah, we're definitely going to do some stuff like that.
Awesome. Very cool. So if people are expecting to see you or hoping to see you involved with something, like you said, National Tour and Pro Tour, we'll find you circling around somewhere around there.
Yep.
This weekend, a couple veterans of the game, of course, Josh Anthon, who's been around for a long time and very successful in what he's done. Drew Gibson, who's had some new exciting news over the off season. What does it feel like getting that win so early in the season, and what does that do for you? Maybe your confidence, and your outlook for the season. Or are you already over it and you're looking on to the next event?
I'm kind of already looking at the next event. It definitely feels good winning the first one of the year. It's definitely a confidence boost, and I think it's hopefully going to show what I can do this year because I'm ready for it.
Was there any one thing you worked on in this offseason? I know you talked earlier about throwing a putter, but was there anything specific where you're like, okay, I'm going to go out into the field and this is what I'm going to work on for 2 straight hours?
I did a little more field work than normal. Just Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Now we got you. Yeah.
It's Jordan Castro calling you. He's like, hey, I see you're on Smashbox.
Terry just FaceTimed me and Jordan just Snapchatted me.
Of course. Do not disturb. It's the best feature on your phone.
Yes, I forgot. No, yeah, it feels great to win the first one of the year, and I'm ready.
Okay. All right. I don't expect you to sit around and watch it, but I do have the video out of you taking it down this weekend. Front and back 9 are released. I did the commentary on it so that I could just get it out as quickly as possible. But that's out there, and hopefully people will go out and consume it. Seems like people are excited about fresh footage, that's for sure.
I just watched the front 9, and it was just great. It was really great.
Okay. Well, glad you liked it. There was some humorous chatter going back and forth for those that haven't seen it. Hole 3, I think we saw Terry with a less than ideal drive. I guess we'll put it that way. But I think my main point is it seemed like you guys were, yes, it's an A tier, yes, it's early season, but there was great camaraderie. Everybody's having a good time with it. It seemed like a pretty relaxed, chill place to be, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was super laid back, and we were all having fun. And I mean, once the final round came, we were a little more focused. First 2 rounds, we were just laughing, joking, But that's how the first one has to be,
Yeah.
Well, the Shelly Sharp is kind of a warm-up for the Memorial. I've heard that there's course changes. You had said something like 7 additional Mandos. How do you feel like the course fares versus last year?
So what I've gathered is the course plays probably 3 or 4 strokes harder. The Mandos definitely are causing different shots that are a lot more difficult than some of the old lines. You have to hit tunnels, and you have to throw more straight down the fairway. You can't just throw huge hyzers anymore, huge anhyzers or rollers. But I think the changes are really good. I don't agree with the triple Mando on hole 1.
Okay.
But other than that, I believe the other 17 holes are great. Once those Disco Pro Tour walls go up, I think the course will look really good and be a lot more challenging than last year.
I think it's fair to say, and I want to follow up on your point, hole 1's triple Mando, for those that are familiar with it, you guys throw over the water as you typically do, and then they put up really a triple Mando. How far short of the basket? 150 feet short maybe of the pin?
Oh,
Maybe
no,
100?
probably 80, probably only like 75 or 80 feet.
Okay, yeah, I suppose. I guess Anton was jump putting it. So that's where they put a triple Mando, and it kind of felt like most of you guys were a little bit like nobody wanted to miss the Mando. It just was too easy to miss, and it felt like the layup really kind of handcuffed you guys. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just realistically not a good starting hole. No one's going to go for that on the first hole of the tournament or first hole of the round. It's a really, really difficult shot, and it just doesn't really make sense because everyone's now laying up and pretty much taking a 3.
Yeah.
And there's just no scoring separation. I would personally like to see the Mando come back to maybe the water's edge. So you have to hit the Mando maybe 150 feet off the tee.
Okay.
And then fade your disc left. I think that'd be a better change. But I think the main reason was for safety, so people wouldn't get hit on the path.
You're exactly right. And so as people watch the coverage, you'll see that's exactly what they're trying to do is take away kind of the big high hyzer or even the low hyzer way off to the right, because that kind of goes right over the path that everybody's walking on, kind of near where the old hole 1 is. And so by forcing this mandatory, you're kind of making everyone throw basically straight as opposed to taking a big hyzer line. The other, and I think Keith and the entire staff and team will look at that and take a lot of the feedback that people have given and hopefully tweak that and make any minor or major, but probably minor adjustments to it. The other huge point of conversation from the weekend seemed to be about elevated baskets. Do you have a hardcore opinion? Is your groan the indicator we need? Like where are you on elevated baskets and how many that we saw out there? I think there were 11.
Wow.
In some form.
Definitely a lot. I don't know. I never really thought about it. I just kind of go out there and
play what's there.
Yeah, I don't really critique the courses too much. I do from time to time, but that's just been a Memorial tradition. I definitely think it looks a little circusy out there. Okay. But I think that's what makes that course what it is. Because I think if we lower all those pins, I think that course can play a lot easier. Because when it gets a little windy out there, those 30-footers into that raised basket get a lot scarier, and a lot of people 3-putt. I don't think it's bad, but I don't want to see it at every single tournament. I think it's fitting for the Memorial. I think it should stay that way. I don't think we should drop it to 2 or 3. I think we should keep it a decent amount.
Okay.
Maybe just for specifically the Memorial courses. And I definitely think elevated baskets on other courses, maybe a couple on every course is great.
Okay. No, I think that's perfectly valid feedback. And the one thing that I maybe you can attest to this, Sunday's round at least, almost 100% calm. I mean, there was barely any wind out there. There were just a little bit on a few shots. It was really calm out there, and I felt like the scoring conditions were as good as they're ever going to be, and maybe with, like you said, a little bit more wind, some of those things, some of those elevated baskets come into play even more. So absolutely. Awesome. Now that's what makes that course hard is wind. When that course is calm, you can attack it pretty hard and score pretty well. So you get like 15-mile-an-hour gusts out there, elevated baskets, and it changes up scoring a lot. And I think that they should keep it that way for the fact of difficultness.
Yeah, I think elevated baskets at a place like the Memorial or Vegas or something like that makes a lot more sense, where you don't have a lot of the natural challenges that you can play off of, and using the wind as a hopefully one of those challenges really makes a lot more sense at a course like that.
Now, as I'm looking, I did a little cheating. You were rated 1027 at the event, and then today, when the ratings came out, it looks like your rating didn't change, still 1027.
I'm not sure if the rounds went in.
Yeah, I don't think the rounds from this weekend went in per se. So depending on where last year ended and what fell off or didn't, but you're still rated 1027. Do you have a number in mind? Do those things even interest you? I mean, is a win that much more significant than where your rating is?
I like to keep my rating up. I think it looks good. I think winning the tournament means more than the rating.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely would like to see myself in the 1030s here soon.
Okay. So
that's kind of the goal.
And then someone had, I think I'll steal someone else's line. They said you averaged roughly 1054 golf. You had a 1051, a 1043, and the final round of 1063 for a 6-stroke margin. I mean, you kind of maybe struggled a little as you came in the final few holes, but at that point it really didn't matter.
Not too much.
All right. Yeah. Wow, that was 1063, and I just think about your last few holes, and you still had a 1063 rated round. Dare I ask, assuming conditions are, we'll say, similar and they're not crazy, was there? I mean, your final round was a 50. You had a 53 to open and a 54, but your final round was a 50. Is there a number that you keep in mind that you'd love to duplicate at the Memorial, or improve upon?
Double digits is great out there. I don't know what a 10 was rated last year, but I think with the new changes, anything over a 7 under is a really good score out there now.
Okay.
I think double digits is what it's going to take to win the Memorial.
Yep.
So I'm definitely going to be shooting for 10s, 11s, right around just low double digits, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah. The course par is 60, so you had a 7 under, a 6 under, and then you finished with a 10 under. So, and we'll see how those changes or any tweaks to them unfold for the Memorial, and see what they do to switch things up. But you'll have an advantage. Mm-hmm. You're going to see those changes before anyone else, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, Adam, is there anything you want to share with the world here before we cut you loose for the night?
No. Thank you to all my fans, all the support, and my sponsors, and you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Oh, of course. Hopefully we'll get to do this a few more times this year as a Tuesday night winner, huh?
I'm ready.
Right. I don't know. You might have to go up against that Brodie Smith. He says he wants to claim a Tuesday night spot. It'll be great to see that and see how that unfolds. All right, buddy. Well, thank you for the time. Thank you for being patient. I know tonight we started chatting about having you and then not really being able to know when we were going to have you because we didn't know how long it would go with Brodie. So I want to tell the world I really appreciate your patience in working with us tonight so that we could feature you and have you on.
Not a problem, guys. Thank you. Anytime.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
Adam.
Have a good night. Thank you. See ya.
All right. You guys have a good night. See ya.
See ya. Again, Discraft's own Adam Hammes.
Hammes. Everyone pronounce Hammes.
Hammes.
Like you said it right, but I've seen and heard a lot of commentators and just people on the internet and Hammies. Yes, it's just Hammes. Almost like hummus, but Hammes.
I just go with like ham and miss. Hammes.
Hammes. You don't miss ham though.
I prefer ham.
I know you
over
do.
turkey. I feel like when you're given one or the other,
the
turkey is better for you, but I love
the only time I like turkey is usually around Thanksgiving. It's about the one time it's like turkey. You kind of crave. You're like, oh, turkeys would be really good, but that's otherwise. I'm a ham guy.
Yeah, you are. Johnny V getting wild. All right, as we said earlier tonight, in a little while we're going to be queuing up. We got two major things to queue up. Not only do we have an Ace Run production, their first go at giving us a submitted piece, so we're super glad to play that for you and for them and for us in just a few moments. But also Johnny's going to be queuing up our Smashbox TV weekly giveaway for all. Any of our Patreon subscribers are automatically eligible and entered into that giveaway. So those two things are coming on the horizon. I'm just going to make a quick plug to go again. Say, please go check out the coverage. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It seems like, as Adam said, he liked it. I think, well, of course he did. He won. He should like it. I mean, I guess I could have done a bad job, but when you win, everything seems more fun, and you usually have a good time. So glad to see and hear that he likes it. Also, I did want to read a few remarks because I reached out to them just before the event, or just after the event, sorry, before tonight's event of the show. And I got a few messages from Callie McMorrin as well as Jennifer Allen. And if I can pull them up, I wanted to read because they played a slightly different course. And as you said, Johnny, people were talking about how this is really a warm-up to the Memorial. It's a place for Keith and
to try and tweak things.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets an idea.
Keith and Ashley and the rest of the crew can kind of manipulate, play with a few things, try a few things out to see what people like or dislike or how things play. And I feel like that is a huge advantage to this event taking place when it is. I'll kind of echo, at least Callie told me, and I'll quickly paraphrase. She didn't care for the triple Mando on the opening hole, and she says, I like the idea of protecting the walkers. However, I feel like it takes away from the hole. Saying that no one can really play that aggressive on it because you're really just playing to a landing zone and then throwing across. And
this is the one that's over the water, correct?
Yeah, it's over the water. It kind of mimics
formerly
the
18 formerly
exactly.
1.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, I heard of some really creative ideas after the round as to what they could or couldn't do with it. They may keep it as is. I would be surprised. I'll admit that. I'd be surprised if they keep it exactly how it played this weekend. It seemed to really handcuff the players. So she said, other than that, I thought all the other Mandos were necessary and placed correctly throughout the course. There was a conversation about whether or not we'll see some form of an additional Mando on hole 18 or not. She doesn't feel that's necessary because of the difficulty that's already faced on that hole. I can understand that. That's a very narrow strip and a landing zone that you're trying to hit in the first place. She also went on to say, well, she absolutely loved the layout for the women. I think that it really allows every player to have an opportunity to score. While distance is important, there are holes where accuracy is more important. That's why the battle between Jen and I was so much fun. The course plays to both of our strengths. And I thought
that's really good to hear because I know last year we heard Jen wasn't a big fan of the changes that were made to the course, if I recall.
Yeah, she didn't love all of them. Now, that was Callie's remark.
That was Callie.
Jen, on the other hand, scathing review. Just kidding. She also said, wait, did they copy and paste? She said, I think the Mandos are very appropriate to protect walkers, which is clearly a concern of theirs out there. So she's echoing that sentiment. They were all thought out and well placed. Again, didn't necessarily love the triple Mando for the sake of attacking the basket. And she says if there is any Mando that's placed on 18, she probably wouldn't be a fan of it. But again, they play a shorter configuration than for the entire course than we see on the MPO side. But it sounds like overall she had pretty good things to say. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So hats off, congrats, all that good stuff to the crew out there for a great event, along with some great weather. I know they dial it up. Give us some great weather for it.
Let's take a minute, and we're going to dive right into Ace Run Productions' 2-minute and 30-second clip that they have sent for us. I'd like everyone to kind of just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hello everybody, Felix with Ace Run Productions. We are back with our one disc, one tip segment. Today we've got MVP sponsored pro, Mr. Isaac Robinson.
Good to be here.
Thanks, Isaac. So Isaac, I just wanted to start off the bat and ask you how long you've been playing the sport of disc golf.
I've been playing for about 14 years. So when I was real little, probably about 5, my parents just kind of dragged me out of the course and I hated it. But when I was about 12, I started really liking it, and that's kind of where I started.
So you are sponsored by MVP. Obviously, you've got a variety of different molds. Thinking about your game, if you could pick one mold out that you think would benefit anybody's bag regardless of skill level, what would that be?
Yeah, I would definitely say the Envy. I have currently in my bag 5 Envies.
Okay.
So I love the disc. It's obviously different plastics will fly different ways. So I have neutron ones; they're a little more stable, and then the electron ones are kind of what I putt with and what I throw for up shots. So they're very very straight, very little turn either or direction, and they're just very consistent discs.
Awesome. Switching gears on a little bit here. Obviously, being a pro, you've got kind of a little bit of a different mentality, a different outtake on things. So if you could think of one tip that can benefit somebody regardless of skill level, what do you think that would be?
The one tip I would give was actually given to me by somebody else, but they said take the course 3 holes at a time. So play your best for those 3 holes, and then forget about those holes, whether they were good or bad. Because I know when I start playing really well, I get nervous. I'm like, oh, I got to do this shot. But if you just forget those 3 holes and play as good as you can in 3-hole segments, it's really going to help you succeed and either not get upset or too excited about your score. So
even keel, I like that. That's smart. Well, I want to thank Isaac Robinson again for coming out with us, filming this segment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you, Smashbox, as always, for airing these segments. Thank you, Smashies, for watching it. Let us know what you're thinking about this content and what we can do to make this better. We always appreciate feedback. And from all of us at Ace Run Productions, we thank you. And as always, let's get excited for some disc golf.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Felix and Ace Run Productions. They are here every single Tuesday night, being helpful on the chat board, and then being helpful along with the super chats. I don't know how much more awesome they can be, but we appreciate it. And now providing us content because we're lazy and we can't make our own. So thank you.
That's the best way to be. I mean, if you can get away with it.
Yeah, yes. Well, again, please provide feedback, go out, like, and share and comment on their material. Let them know that maybe some of the kinds of things you're looking for. Give them a little direction, some things you'd like to hear or see or learn about. I think that would, I'm sure they have some of their own ideas, of course, but if you want to help steer them in any given direction, I know they're very, very open to that. So please do so. All right. What else do we have going on in the wide world of disc golf and beyond?
We already talked about there's nothing going on.
Oh, nothing?
In disc golf. In beyond, I'm sure there's plenty going on.
Well, I did see, I'm going to randomly throw a few things that, it's like I have a ticker of disc golf information, but there's like 9 of them all going different ways. Sometimes they do not correlate at all. I just have to think back. A couple days ago, we saw Las Vegas Challenge, and what made me think of that is Adam saying that he's not putting it on his calendar, he's not attending, mainly because I feel like the players that aren't attending are saying, well, it's not opening the Pro Tour or the National Tour, it's not one of those 2 big point series. And it's an A tier, and it's a great A tier with great payout. But I think
it's going to interfere, and I'll use that in quotes, with memorial practice. It has for years, but we've just always kind of dealt with it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I like the term interfere. I understand what you're saying.
Players would like to focus on one of the elite series, which is the Pro Tour and the National Tour, and this happens to be a Pro Tour. So rather than play that, drive, and have 2 days at best of good practice, just the mentality for some players is to skip it. And this is something we kind of foresaw coming when Vegas stepped back from the National Tour. We knew this would happen with some players. There are players that have played this event, the Vegas event and Memorial event, for 5-7 years. They probably don't need as much practice. They're going to go out to Vista and they're going to check out all the new Mandos and play them and warm up and practice those, but they don't need to know Fountain Hills because they know it. They don't need to really practice a lot of the shots on Vista because they know them. So you can kind of get away with it. But there are some players that just every year they take it, as they should. They take it very seriously. And unfortunately for Vegas, they are now only, and I'm putting that in quotes as well, an A tier.
Well, and this isn't to take anything away from Vegas, of course, because and I was just going to go look for their exact numbers. I want to say they have 400 or 500 people signed up. So it's not like it's not
hurting the event.
Exactly. It's just a matter of some players are shifting or adjusting their priorities, and the beautiful thing is there's plenty of players that want to be there and that are going to still hopefully fill all of the given divisions. It's just a matter of who's going to be there and why they're making decisions to be there or not, and then what does that mean for the opening of their year. And I think
it's probably about a dozen pros maybe that will probably look at that and say, I'm not interested in Vegas this year.
Yeah.
And the problem is those dozen pros are pretty big names.
Some of our big draws.
And they have, I wouldn't say weight, but they definitely have a following. And whenever someone skips one of the established events, it's a little bit of newsworthy.
Well, also speaking of newsworthy, I was going to say to end that point, heavy MP or FPO in that we've got Evelina, Henna, and Katrina. So 3 of our top 3 or 4 or 5 FPO, but we don't have Hokum or Pierce. And I know this because I was just looking at the list a day or two ago. We don't have Hokum or Pierce, and I think that's a very conscious decision that we're not going to see Hokum and Pierce play, but the other 3 are slated to play. So you're going to have some star power on that FPO side, but it's going to feel not the same if Pierce isn't there, if Hokum's not there, as there are, of course, 2 other contenders in that division.
And this clearly doesn't, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, it doesn't fall into, Hokum doesn't fit into this perspective, but it feels like a lot of the Discraft players are skipping it.
I didn't look at it that way. If you did the math, I'm not sure.
If you just look at it, and part of that, Paul was going to skip it regardless, but now will not play because of his foot. Paige is skipping it. Hemis is skipping it. It just feels like Vegas has been such an Innova-driven event, and it's an awesome event. But as we've seen on the board, a couple people on the board saying, the courses, they don't necessarily love them. They like them, they don't love them. And Discraft players are going to want to focus on that Memorial event because they want to win the premier event of their sponsor. So, as I said, unfortunately for Vegas, you're going to take the hit. And an Innova sponsored player isn't probably going to see it the same way. They're going to see, Vegas is one of my sponsor's big events this year. I'm going to go to that event.
Yeah.
So take it for what it is. Maybe it's just perception, but that's kind of how I'm feeling about it.
Well, we will see how the registration continues to unfold there. Nonetheless, I know we're doing kind of a little bit of a countdown, but you think about wintertime, you think about Vegas, Memorial, all 4, 5, 6 weeks away, respectively, right around the corner. So
how is it so close?
I don't know. I'm ready. I'll say that.
I'm not. I don't feel like I'm ready. There are so many things I feel like need to fall into place yet. I said this last week that I feel like there's a dozen things that need to be done, and I can only do about 2 of them right now. I feel like I'm waiting to hear from people. I feel like I am unprepared, and it's not a feeling I like to have. And I don't know how I can be any more prepared at this point, but I feel unprepared. I also feel that there's I don't want to say added pressure, but there is some additional pressure on this particular start of the season with the way last year's start went. The way the last year's start
in
with
terms of
the Pro Tour.
Yeah, in terms of a live perspective on the pro side, Pro Tour side.
We'll just say as much as the Memorial was, we did the best we could with it. It wasn't great. But this year I feel like there's just added pressure, and there shouldn't be, because we did so well at the end of last year. I should be rolling into this, but I still feel like there's just a little bit of extra weight on my shoulders.
Well, and there certainly will be, because everybody's excited about the new branding, the new year, all the things that go along with it being out and just kicking off a new year, a good, nice, fresh start. And I think it's fair to say that last year things were a lot more haphazard at this time Well, we didn't even know about the haphazardness, we should say, at this time. That's not for a few more weeks.
I was going to say it wasn't haphazard. It was just we were, at this point last year, we were sitting back and relaxing.
So one other side note to all of that, as you guys have been seeing me release footage from the post-production side, I think buried, it might be buried, but I think I have some memorial bonus footage from last year that I captured while I was there that got put on a back burner because I was just kind of there on my own. I think I have some, so it's gonna confuse people, but all of a sudden I'll make sure to get it out before this year's memorial.
Please, right before it.
Right before it, so everyone's like, "What?
That Wednesday?
Well, I thought Paul wasn't gonna be here. Why is he
the
playing?"
Wednesday start date? Please put it out that day. Yeah, let's
but
just
anyway,
confuse everybody.
I am going to tell
and do
you
a
now.
YouTube premiere. That would be great.
It will be some bonus footage that I captured. I don't believe I had any real obligations to it. It was all kind of on my own to be there, and it got eventually swept under the rug, put on the back burner, but it's got to get out before next year, so I have an official deadline now. But it will certainly confuse people. I can't wait for that. People are going to be like, huh? What's going on? I thought they changed the course. Well, that's what happens. Sometimes you get bonus footage, and then
I know I'm giving you a hard
and then
time.
it gets out when it gets out. So look for that.
If we're doing shameless self promotion and plugs, the Skip Ace website, the redesign rolled out. It is.
Are you gonna? Do you still owe me royalties? Should I go check this out for stealing my?
No, instead, we stole somebody else's picture.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know where that picture came from, to be honest. My developer grabbed it.
Wow,
so I'm just going to make an assumption that that's good to go. So the website redesign rolled out. It is step one of a multi-step process. After you log into it, it is pretty basic and plain, but it is one of the building blocks that needed in order for us to do more customization. So expect some changes throughout the year for the design. As far as functionality, I know I talked, Maker's Mark last week asked about it. The first upgrade that should be rolling out is what we're kind of calling weekly leagues. And what that's going to be is that's going to be a two-person only challenge that you can pick for whatever the upcoming main event is. So you can pick, we'll say the first one, if hopefully it rolls out in time, will be the Memorial. You sign up, one other person can jump in and just play against you. It's going to be a specific set of rules, and anybody can play against you. They don't need to know a special code. They won't need to know anything. It's kind of a fan duel or maybe a DraftKings style play. And that's going to be step one, so that login page you jump onto won't be that blank page. It'll actually have some content on it, which is what it was always meant to have. So that's going to be step one. Hopefully that rolls out in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Sweet. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was able to even go out and my previous login worked.
I can change that.
Not anymore. Delete account. But my previous login did work as I was out here on your new site. Neato.
Yeah, it's pretty, like I said, it's pretty basic as far as the stylings right now, but it just lets us be able to expand and promote and build more build better design than the WordPress design that at one point I found somewhere and just implemented. So now more or less everything that I originally designed about 5 years ago has been washed away and been redesigned by a real developer, not just a pretend one like me.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, you can check that out. That's skipace.com. Johnny V and Fantasy Disc Golf. Is it going to be Skip Ace t-shirts?
Not sure yet. I'm actually reaching out to I'm going to Fiverr, Fiverr, and I think I'm going to look for someone to design a Skip Ace logo. Because I don't have a logo. It's always just been Skip Ace. And I think it would be advantageous for me at this point now, after so many years, to finally have a real logo. I have zero logo design skills. I was going to ask Terry, as he is the king, clearly. Yeah, right. And I think that's just a good way to get one, I'll say, at a decent price. I think you can probably pick one up for, $150 to $200.
Oh, gosh. Now you're $100 too much. You could get a decent logo.
I've actually looked out there, and if you want like the full package
full res with like a
with the the AI logo, not just like a PNG or a JPEG they send you, then I think you have to pay a little bit more. But either way, that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully we'll have something like that in the next couple weeks. And at that point, then maybe we can start rolling out some T-shirts.
I see out on the board, as I've been just only keeping one eye on it on our YouTube chat tonight, the likes of Disc Golf Comedy. Good to see you out there, buddy. Hope you're well. Also, DG Mike.
Just shows up out of nowhere to insult me, and then
Then
he's going to tuck tail and run.
That guy.
Just kidding.
William Bednar, hope you're doing well. As again, and Ace Run has called it a night. So again, I want to say thank you very much, Ace Run, for all that you guys have been doing, and keep at it. I had something else related, and it totally slipped my mind. Well, I mean, you briefly touched on it. We saw a post, and it's certainly worth mentioning, as he's the highest rated player in the world. Paul Macbeth, not little. How to say it? Undecided how the year's going to start for him. Let's put it that way. Is that a good way to put it? His foot is officially in some kind of a boot or cast, air cast kind of mechanism. I think it's some kind of boot.
Some sort of supporting boot to support his some sort of tendon or bone bruise is what he had said. It was a bone bruise that he's hoping to heal up, and the stability, they say, will help with that. So he gets to wear that around, and depending on how quickly he heals, he might be available for the start of the season. Hopefully he pre-registered for the events, otherwise he might not be able to get in.
Yeah. That would be funny. Sorry, you're 9th on the waiting list.
Ooh, yeah, but you could show up the morning of, and maybe we can get you in.
If someone slips from their tee time, we might be able to squeeze you in.
Yeah, so hopefully we get to see that. I'm just going to assume he's going to be out at least probably 3 weeks from the Memorial. So probably not going to pick anything up until around maybe mid-March to late March. But
yeah.
hopefully he beats that estimate.
And Nick says, kind of weird he was able to throw for all the videos with a hurt ankle. And I'll go ahead and say it. I don't want to say I thought the same thing, but when you think about where your injury is at and how much is it impacting you, and do you feel it either immediately or after the fact, and then is it an injury where throwing more will hurt it more or not? I think that's always something that has to be determined. And you know, and even talking to Josh Anthon this last weekend and Drew Gibson saying things like, you know, we're almost always injured. And I know people like Paul have said that in the past too. You know, our players or our athletes are frequently injured. It's just a matter of, is it bad enough that they really are going to pull themselves out of an event or sit out from the tour for a few weeks? Those are some of the decisions that they have to make. And I think back to Calvin Heimberg. I know we talked about him last week and such. You know, we've seen issues with his back and where he's going to be and if he's going to be fully ready for the start of the season or not. It seems like he's going to be. But our players are getting smarter, I think, about listening to their bodies. And then, as if that's not enough, some of them are then taking the right steps to go getting actual advice from doctors and chiropractors and specialists and things of that nature. And I think that's all part of the evolution of our sport. Did we talk last week? I don't know if we did. Maybe we did, about Seth Muncy and Disc Golf Strong signing on with the Pro Tour?
No, that was not announced at
all
that
right,
point
that was
last
sliding
week.
across my ticker then.
Correct. They have formed a partnership, and they are working together. Is it?
I believe for every event.
Is it for every event? I wasn't sure if that was just the last half of the events or if it was for the entire season.
So that is a huge step. Congratulations to Seth and Disc Golf Strong. For those of you who don't know, I couldn't possibly admire Seth and his work ethic and his just his game plan that he's had over these last few years. I couldn't admire it more. He's really put himself out there. Most of the travel, most of the expenses, most of the things he's been doing has been completely free to everyone, and he's really just kind of taken it on the chin. He's absorbed a lot of those expenses and then given freely of his time and his energy and of his effort. And so to see after a few years of that grind and of that work and of that assistance and help he's given, hopefully things start to become start coming back a little bit and be a little bit more fruitful. I'll just say from a actual financial standpoint. I don't know what their deal is. I don't need to know, but I hope it's all trending in that right direction because Seth works really hard and he's dedicated a lot to our athletes in our game. And so to see him land things like a partnership with the Pro Tour, I think is very exciting. So congratulations, Seth. And I think it's funny because we could line up literally 20 to 30 to 40 professional disc golfers, and every one of them could give you a testimony to how Seth has helped them in their game. And that just speaks volumes.
It's just another step in the evolution of disc golf to become a more professional sport, and Seth is contributing to that.
Bo on the board says, Seth, Disc Golf Strong has legit been amazing for me. Wish I'd actually gotten more advice from him when he was in the Nashville. And I'll echo or add on to that last year I saw him go over to Europe for nearly a month or a little over a month, and to be able to spread his love and have that experience for the players and for the promoters over there, and then also for himself and the company, again, just speaks volume about all the great things that he's doing. So hope to see some more from him out there. Nick says, just weird that he's been, following up on the Paul comment before about it's just weird that he's been throwing basically full power. And Disc Golf Comedy, have a good night. We appreciate it. Says 2020 is going to be a fun year, and we'll see y'all out there. I would like to know, Disc Golf Comedy, before you sign off here for the night, what are your plans? When are some people going to see you? Are you working on projects? I know you've worked pretty heavily with Disc Golf Association, DGA.
And
you've also
UDisc.
worked with UDisc. I think,
Every Monday he's live streaming.
okay.
I saw last night he was doing the disc golf, that alpha, that disc golf game again, which is in alpha.
Okay.
Sorry, I stumbled through that. Couldn't think of the name of the game itself, but I saw he was doing that last night.
All right. Well, Johnny's going to start pulling up some numbers here for our Smashbox TV patrons. While he's doing that, I'm going to give you guys a shout out to or a call out for any other questions that you have, and we'll try and read through those and answer those. If you have any questions on the board on the YouTube chat board, please bring them there, and I'll kind of filter through those and see if we can come up with an answer for you.
And while Terry filters through those, I can let everybody know that if you'd like to be eligible, I know we mentioned it in the regular show, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. If you get any value out of this podcast, any value, please feel free to support us. It helps out. We are an independent broadcaster. We are an independent podcast.
Wait, no one's underwriting us?
No one's underwriting us. We like to keep
Let's
it that way.
sell out to somebody.
If only we could. I'd like to,
Nobody's buying.
Terry, we have a line of people at my door waiting to buy Smashbox, but we keep it independent. We are men of the people.
We'll go to Sirius XM Radio. No, yeah, they would offer us at least enough to make it worthwhile.
Men of the people, I tell you, and we can only do that with your support. So it is, it's always appreciated, and you get to be entered into all these wonderful weekly giveaways. And this week we have 195 patrons that we'd like to give them a chance to win something. Terry, what are we giving away this week?
I don't know. I've got some sweet merch at home. I'll find something. How about we should do a combo of
combos?
What's your favorite combos?
Pretzel and cheese.
Nacho cheese or cheddar cheese?
Cheddar.
And you said pretzel, because if you would have said cracker and cheese, I would have punched you.
Pretzel.
The cracker and cheese combos, those are terrible.
I don't know if I've ever had them.
Oh, you've had them. They're nasty.
Maybe. I don't. I prefer the pretzel.
The pizza
ones are pretty good.
Yeah,
the pizza ones.
Like
I could do the
get
pizza
down
ones.
on those. Can't you?
I'd hammer down on some of those pizza combos. It's been at least a year or two since I've had combos.
Well, it will either be a disc and a towel or a shirt and a towel. Depending on who wins and maybe if they have,
if I like you or not,
no, if they have a preference, is what I was going to say. Or if someone says, well, I fit into only small shirts, I'll be like, we've never really ordered small shirts because there's so few people that wear them. So if you'd rather have a disc than a medium shirt, you can make that decision. So they'll need to get back to me as to what they want. So we'll get it figured out. We always have some goodies. They're usually valued anywhere between $15 and $25 every single week when we give stuff away. So we'll come up with something.
We always do. All right, Terry, I need a number between 1 and 3 because I'm not going to give you any more options.
That's no fun. Let's go with, what is it, our second podcast of the year.
All right.
So 3. No, I'm just kidding. The second number sounds good.
All right. Out of 195, the very first number is 140. The second
Ouch.
number is 47. They've been sorted by
47.
first name. I'm scrolling up to 47.
First name starting with A. as
Yep.
opposed
It's
to-
Dan Harbeck. Congratulations, Dan
Harbeck.
Harbeck.
The quick plug for Dan. Dan has graciously supported Smashbox TV and
One of our very first patrons.
yes, and one of he's a Patreon supporter of the Disc Golf Guys independent channel for my post production. So Dan, we very much appreciate it. I appreciate you also challenging me in games when I was 17 years old at Sandy Point Resort, and you'd frequently lose, and you might say you did it on purpose, but really I think I was just out putting you, and you just kept shelling over money. And you were like my first ever sponsor in that sense when I was 17. So Dan,
And you continue to sponsor us. So
I truly will
appreciate
never forget us putting around on the practice basket at Sandy Point Resort in the mid 90s. Oh gosh, do we have to call him one of our favorite people from Illinois? He fits on a list because it's growing.
It is growing. I mean,
And we're glad
we
it's
got
growing.
DG Mike and
I don't know.
Dan
He's
and
suspect
Dana.
still.
Well, it depends.
Tom McManus.
Tom McManus, of course. Does DG Mike have the mustache? That's the question. Because when he has the mustache and when he hasn't, that really shifts where he is on my list. And I'm not going to tell you which way it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on what he has. So thanks a lot, Dan Harbeck, as always. We will reach out to you and make sure that happens. And if we haven't gotten anything to you, again, please reach out. I had someone reach out to me and say, hey, I think I won on this date. And they sent me a link. And I'm like, yep, sure enough, you did. And I don't see an email sent to Terry, so that one was on me.
All right. So sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's Johnny's fault. But we promise you this. If you don't have something that you are entitled to or that you've won or should be getting, it's 100% not intentional. It just needs to be rebrought to our attention. And you are not offending us when
Well,
you
we say that every week,
give us that reminder. So
And then I
please
get
do
offended.
so.
I'm just kidding. What else, Terry? Anything else fun going on? Have you done anything exciting? Have you watched anything cool? You've been on a couple plane rides. Listened to anything great? Any good podcasts? I have a new podcast I'm listening to called The Political Orphanage by Andrew Heaton. I actually just became a Patreon supporter of said podcast.
You're really
that's how
getting
much
into it.
That's how much I enjoy it. He is a middle of the road political pundit who is also a comedian. He has written for a couple comedy shows. It's good. He does great interviews and he's very funny. I wouldn't say it's middle of the road. He tells you where he particularly stands, but I would say he's a moderate general person. One of my favorite things he does every podcast, he makes up fake sponsors. He does fake ad reads, like 3 a show. The most recent one, LED hair plugs. It was the greatest. He had an entire commercial thanking LED hair plugs, the official hair plug of Burning Man, and just it was great. He has a specific sense of humor. I just get quite a kick out of him. The one before that was pony shampoo. Everything specific shampoo for your pony.
Okay.
And it's very funny, and I like it, and I just figure I'd pass it on. If you're into politics, and I know we don't talk politics in general, but if you like to listen to him or have just listened to him do really good interviews with people, he did an entire 45 minutes on comparing Iran to Napoleon Bonaparte.
Wow.
And it made total sense. And I sat and had my son listen to it in the car. He was forced to. But I like it a lot. And if you obviously you can listen to it for free, but if you like it, go ahead and support on Patreon like I did. Anything you, Terry? Have you gotten anything new?
I think I may have said this. I don't know if I ever got around to mentioning it. I was introduced to the Patriot Act on Netflix, and that sounds incredibly political. What's the comedian's name that it's? I want to say it's Hassan. I don't know if the pronunciation is correct. Is it Hassan?
I believe it is.
Used to be on The Daily Show. I don't want to say it's like an Adam Ruins Everything that's more in depth even. That's not, but it's kind of along those lines where he just really breaks down the behind the scenes or the things you know. Like, for instance, I watched, thinking of Seth Muncie, he said he's going on a cruise tomorrow. What should I know? I've never been on a cruise. And I said, don't go out and watch Netflix's The Patriot Act, where he breaks down cruise ships, because you won't want to go on yours then. He breaks down so many different things on such a great level. And I'll say this, I'm sure plenty of people watch it from just purely from a political standpoint, and that's not at all how I'm coming at the show. I watch it, I consume what he's giving me. Of course, there's some political bias to it, that's infused in there, but I don't think that's the point of the show. So therefore, if you just like a great show that mixes some comedy along with some really interesting topics, I cannot recommend that show enough. I've probably seen, and I'm watching old episodes, like I think some of the originals. I've been really entertained by them. So I managed to watch, I don't know, the 22 or 28 minutes of that when I was on my plane ride back from Phoenix the other day. Yeah, so I can attest to that.
Okay, good.
The Patriot Act. I was introduced to it by my good buddy Mike Schwieger's sister was watching it when we visited her a few months ago. And I thought it was great. And it was like, oh, this is on Netflix, which I already have. Yeah, so I like how some guys are Hassan. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Otherwise, I would have. It's Minhaj.
Probably like Minaj. Like
I think that sounds right. But either way, I think it is great.
Mr. Robot ended. That was really good. I was very happy with how it closed out its series. My wife and I finished watching Man in the High Castle.
Really heard about it, but never watched it.
Really good, except for the ending, which I thought sucked.
Oh, don't spoil it. I'll never get around to watching it. But
just
don't
like
spoil
the last 5 minutes, I thought were just bad. Everything else up until that was really good, but just didn't stick the landing. And as opposed to Mr. Robot, which I felt completely stuck the landing, and I can't imagine another ending. That's about it. I don't know if I don't think there's much else going on as far as
Okay.
what we got.
Well, then I'm going to add with a couple other random notes tomorrow night. I'm super excited. My daughter is going to be in a play. I think it's her second or third play ever. She's going to be in a school play. I think she has a medium to small role, but I am excited to actually go film that and watch that as I was running around trying to get one of her costume pieces ready. Dyeing the beard. It's a pirate-themed play. She's Pink Beard, and needless to say, dyeing the beard pink didn't go over quite as well as one might have hoped, but I am super excited to watch her play in that. This weekend, Philo Brathwaite is coming to Wisconsin, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time with him. A few of us are, and he's coming here for the indoor disc golf experiences, which are taking place Friday night and Saturday night. That's where there's singles, I think, Friday night and doubles Saturday night, and it's really an ace race style format inside of a soccer complex, an indoor soccer complex, and this is the fourth or fifth or seventh year that it's been happening. Enormously successful, run by Mike Harrington and Jeff Showers, and there's people coming from all over the state, all over the Midwest that are going to come compete in it. So Philo is the special guest of honor. Last year we saw Simon Lizotte come. This year it's going to be Philo. So he's coming into town tomorrow. So it'd be great to hang out with him, get a little time with him. So that's happening this weekend. Also, quick shout out for Esther Schultz. I know last week we talked about Eagles Wings, so please go out and apply for the Junior Grant Program. We'll make another quick plug for that. That is available, and if anyone wants to support their trip over to Zambia again this year, there's a number of ways you can do it on the website. We put that out there last week, and then Esther Schultz specifically has also started an additional GoFundMe campaign to help offset some of the costs for her going over back to Zambia along with the rest of that crew, and super glad to support that effort, and I wish everyone the best of luck over there. So go check that out if you wish. And other support mechanisms, I wanted to say shout out. I don't know if I did last week. With me going to the Koh Samui event, the Samui Swine, and then as well as the Asia Open in Taiwan, Innova has graciously stepped up to offer me some additional support for those two events. And I just wanted to say thank you to them, and they're going to be helping with the assistance on that coverage. So I'm going to get that out there and say thank you again to those guys.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay. I think that's about all that we have. So we appreciate you guys for joining us. We know we had a few new faces, or a few infrequent faces that decided to join us, or ears, I should say, that joined us either in the regular show or the after show. We really appreciate you guys being here and following along through the night. Congrats to whoever won that football game last night. I see there's some chatter on the board about that.
LSU Tigers.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was my guess.
I've always been a big LSU fan.
Yeah. since
about 8 o'clock last night.
Yeah. Okay.
I did predict LSU was going to win, but I also said to the gentleman that asked me, I know nothing of college football other than the Badgers. I know Joe Burrow's name, and which was the quarterback.
Yeah. Like you got to tell me.
And I didn't even know Clemson was the returning champ. That's how much I knew. I just knew LSU was good, and I said, LSU will probably win. Thankfully, I was right, but ultimately, it was a completely ignorant 50-50 guess.
All right. Well, congrats to the Packers. If we want to get local for a moment, Packers winning this weekend. I know there's some well, there's some disappointed fans everywhere, but congrats to the Packers. And yes, Paige Pierce is going to Thailand. I think she's already touched down there over their Makers Telemark, and excited to cover them over for the event. So for Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been Podcast After Show episode 280. Thank you to Adam Hammis. Thank you to Ace Run Productions. Thank you to Disc Golf Nerd. And thank you in our regular show to Brodie Smith. We appreciate and love each and every one of you. We just like our Patreon supporters even more. We'll see you next week for episode 281. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.